Hello, everybody. Welcome to
The Macabre Podcast Universe.
It's the podcast that exists to prove people wrong when they say
Sequels are never better than the originals.
And we are doing Star Wars.
We are.
It was voted upon by you, the fans, for us to finally cover. There's been enough distance from all of the releases that it feels exciting again, or at least worth re-examining the new ones and stuff like that. We talked about Force Awakens, we talked about Rogue One, and now we are talking about the movie that is perhaps the most controversial of the Star Wars movies.
Okay.
I guess in recent memory, I'm forgetting that Phantom Menace is about as controversial as it gets, but that's
the
also
most current. Yeah.
That's just everyone saying, "Wow, this sucks," and this is more like people saying, "Wow, this is a masterpiece," and "Wow, this sucks."
Okay. Yeah.
And a lot of anger in between.
Yeah.
And
it is Star Wars. There's anger.
Right.
Fans.
It's a requirement.
Yeah.
Right now, Obi-Wan is premiering, and there's already people who are in the series who I'm sure are regretting the fact that they ever signed on because there's a lot of hatred for people and stuff. Don't hate people, even if you don't like the movie or show. Don't hate them. But we have a special guest on this episode. It is my go-to Star Wars expert. He knows everything about the world and the universe, really. In fact, I would say he knows a little too much.
I'd agree.
And that is Michael Combs. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
That was great to hear the intro live. That was a great experience.
Good.
Well done.
I'm glad.
So I need to know why you care so much about Star Wars.
Wow. No, it's my childhood. I'm also, I don't know. I've never been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, but I tend to grab onto things and get to know everything about them, move on, but then retain the information. So Star Wars was one of my first that way. So
Nice.
it's great. Yeah.
And it's, I mean, just today, you were texting me information about things I had said in the episodes where I was like, Mike, I didn't I say in those, I said like, Mike, if you know the answer, shoot me a text.
Oh, absolutely. And at one point you said, Mike's probably pulling his hair out at this point.
And were you?
Yes, I was, because you made fun of the rule of two twice. So
we can't rehash that here.
No, probably not.
Well, I think what is fun is I think my relationship to Star Wars, of course, it's one of my favorite things, but my relationship truly does, especially the older I get, it begins and ends with the movies, and then it does extend a little bit to the TV shows, but even those I'm not as precious about, I don't think. And so, something like the Rule of Twos, the reason I don't like it is because it's not explained well in the movie.
What's the Rule of Twos?
That there can only be a Sith and a Master, or an apprentice.
Yeah.
Yes.
There can be the Sith Lord and then his apprentice, basically.
That's a thing in Star Wars?
That's a thing in Star Wars.
It's a thing that someone says at the end of a Phantom Menace, and we talked about how it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't really have any bearing on the plot, and doesn't really make any sense.
Did we talk about that?
We did.
Oh, I don't remember talking about that.
And then Mike sent me details on how it does make sense.
Okay.
To which I was like, you are not necessarily wrong, but the movies don't present that. To which you also agreed. We both kind of agreed to disagree and agree.
And agree. I had to make the point and defend it, but I also agree with why it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the prequels is and now that there's been more time, it's just people trying to cover up the little mistakes that George Lucas made and writing extra material and doing extra things to go, actually, that thing that discounts certain things that were said isn't discounting it. It's actually right, which is sort of the fun nature of fanship.
Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of the whole thing about Star Wars that
Constantly
both drives me
fixing
nuts,
their mistakes,
but also is fun.
Oh, that.
It's a whole mishmash. But we reached out to you.
Yeah.
And you decided, I want to do The Last Jedi.
Yes.
Now, do you want to go into why you picked this movie? Just your baseline why.
I think I wanted to pick it because you seem to love it.
Uh-oh.
I won't say just yet.
I know, but in previous conversations we've had, you've enjoyed it. And for me, it was like a very traumatic experience.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yikes.
At least at the time. I will say, spoiler alert, that changes a little bit with time. But it's the one that I want to be like, okay, I don't like, out of the 3 movies of this follow-up trilogy, this is the one I didn't like the most.
Okay.
So I wanted to go through it again. I guess I'm a sucker for punishment. But
Okay.
I wanted to experience again and go, is this fair? Maybe with some time I can see different things if I look at it with a different eye.
Yeah.
See what those critics who seem to think it's a 90% score on Rotten Tomatoes,
Yeah.
what they think, what they believe about it. So that's why I want to choose it.
Okay.
And maybe I could go on a rant or two.
Please.
Well, we will see. So what was your, as you know, we talk about our first time watching the movie. Who wants to go first on this?
Let's let our guests go first.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it. I don't believe it was opening. We saw it as a staff, my coworkers, we all went and saw it together. And the whole time they're looking at me to see my reaction. Because none of them are like super. Yeah, they're not like super big Star Wars fan. So they're enjoying it, but they're looking at me because I'm like making noises and going, and so like that. So my experience is being observed of how I'm observing this movie. So it's a little weird. And then coming out of the theater, there's big moments in this movie, especially for longtime Star Wars fans with particular characters, and not knowing what to think.
Okay.
That was the experience. Unlike episode 1, where I was just like, this is the worst thing ever. But
got it.
Yeah.
That was pretty cut and dry for me.
Yeah. This one, at the very least, you had to sit on and think about.
Exactly. And go, did I like this or not like this? Am I mad?
Okay.
Am I not mad? Yeah. So that was my experience with this movie.
Okay.
It led to, I don't like this movie.
Got it.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see as we get into it. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like this. We got quite the trail of breadcrumbs to follow here.
Seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
I know we saw it together first time.
Yeah, from my memory seeing it in theaters, I think I was sitting next to a kid who couldn't be more excited to see it. So it was really cute.
Yes.
He was like, yeah, oh, like turning it to his dad, and like he was so excited.
I do remember that.
So that was very cute.
That might have been me. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was kind of a big
Initially.
kid.
Yeah, exactly. No.
So that was great. I didn't like the movie the first time around. It was like one after the other issues I had. There were some things that I did like. I thought the movie looked really good on a technical level, but story-wise, I was like, this is all over the place. They have no idea what they're doing. Last night was the second time that I saw it ever, because I avoided it since that time. I hated it so much.
And every time I've talked about it,
so little.
You tend to be like, yeah, okay. I get what you're saying. Shut up about it.
I am relieved the movie ended, and I just had this sigh of like, okay, it's not as bad as I remember it being. There's actually like things that I had big issues with. I either just don't care about it anymore to spend energy on it, or I'm fine with it now.
Yeah, actually, I don't remember you saying, "Oh, it's not bad anymore."
No,
you seem to like it.
No, I like it. I like it, but it was a relief of like, oh man, I think a lot of it, like I've changed a lot since the movies come out.
Yeah,
is what I mean.
And so I remember on my first experience, I don't know, maybe we will actually have a similar trajectory. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Okay.
But when I saw the movie, I just remember the moment when they got on the horse things in the casino.
Yes.
And I think I turned to Jordan and was just like, I can't believe
what is going on. Yeah.
And I was just
so
like
mad.
Really upset. I started getting kind of angry, and then the movie's progressing, and the Leia flying through space had driven me a little crazy.
Don't get me started.
And then the Holdo stuff I wasn't digging, And then the movie ends.
The what stuff?
Laura Dern.
Oh, okay.
The Holdo maneuver.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll get there.
And the movie ends, and I was like, I can't believe it, because I'm a huge Rian Johnson fan. And I was like, I don't like that movie. That's how I walked out. And I was upset. And I remember calling a friend and being like, this is the worst one since Attack of the Clones. And although there's only like 3 movies in between that, but still, I'm
what
like,
year did this come out?
I think 2017.
Were we married yet?
Well, we got married in 2017.
17.
Yeah,
September.
so we were married.
Okay, just curious.
And so I was just livid, and I couldn't believe this man who made Looper, a movie that I think is so awesome, could make a movie this bad, is what I thought.
Yeah.
And then the next week, I went and saw it with my dad, and it was, well, and actually, before that, I do remember going to church and grabbing some mics from Jeremy or something, probably to record a podcast.
Most likely, yeah.
And I ran into you, and I said, what did you think of the movie? And this is what I remember. I could be wrong, but I remember you sitting there and just saying, it's the best one since Empire.
Whoa.
I remember you saying that, but that could be a false memory.
It could be. It could be the couple days after. And then another couple days, you would hear me say the opposite. So,
okay.
That's where I'm at with this movie. It's up and down for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched it right before this, and the experience was very interesting.
Yeah.
So that happens, and then I go and see it with my dad, and I'm just like, I just want to see Star Wars again, so I'm going to go again. And my dad hadn't seen it yet. And it was as if, and I have had this experience happen, I think one other time, and that was with Avatar, where I watched the movie and I was like, did I watch a different movie? Because I love this. This is great.
You're talking about The Last Airbender, right? No.
Yes,
of course.
Yeah, great film.
No, I just remember rewatching Avatar, and I was like, why did I not like this? This has like everything I like about fantasy in one movie.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And this was a similar experience. I mean, I still had issues, but I was like, it was almost like, since I knew the tone was a little bit different and I knew where the story was going, I liked it. And then I got it on Blu-ray. I watched it again, and I was like, this movie's good. This movie's good. And I was like, I'm not willing to put it above a lot of the movies, but it's good. And then we watched it last night, and I won't say my statement yet, but it's really good. It's really good. But it might blow the house down if I...
So let's just have a slow you letting it out.
Yeah. Yes, I like this movie a lot. We'll start with that. So that's my ground level experience with this.
Yeah, just finishing it about an hour ago. I think I know why I probably most likely said this is the best one yet.
Okay.
There's moments I think that fool you into thinking this is a great movie.
Okay.
So then upon further review, you go, oh, but this, and this.
Uh-huh.
And it's still fun. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
But great is a strong word.
Yeah. This, here's one statement I can say.
Yeah.
This movie, it pains me that even if you don't like it, but it pains me that more blockbusters aren't this auteur driven.
Yeah.
Because, and I watched this like hour and a half documentary on the making of it and stuff like that. And it was truly, which just seems wild to me, because the next year they would be firing Chris Miller and Phil Lord and stuff like that, and then Rise of Skywalker, which is something.
It's a thing.
You know, now it feels like Star Wars is very managed, and there was this brief moment where they were like, we've got 2 hits in a row. Let's let this guy do anything he wants. And when you're watching the behind the scenes, he's doing stuff like there's this great moment where Andy Serkis comes on set. and Ryan's like, hey, I'm so glad to see that you're here. This is going to be a fun day. I do want to warn you, because I don't want to blindside you, that there's a huge battle and it does result in your character's death. And Andy Serkis is like, oh, okay, wow, that's really? And then he's like, yeah. And it didn't seem aggressive or like Andy Serkis was mad. I mean, he's a professional guy.
Yeah.
But yeah. And right off the bat, before we get going, I do want to state that even the first time watching it, I loved everything involving Rey, Kylo, and Snoke, and I loved everything involving Luke Skywalker. From the first time I've watched it till now, I've loved those things. I just want to say, for the record, it was the Finn stuff that drove me nuts, and I have since come around.
I'll agree with the Finn stuff wholeheartedly, but really.
This is, oh man.
I feel like this episode is just going to be Mike and Micah arguing.
Jordan's
going to
be like, I'm going to go like take a nap.
I know where I stand.
When you're ready to talk about porgs, I'll come back.
Yeah.
Hey, porgs are great in the tradition of the great Ewoks. Let's Okay, so first of all, the movie is written and directed by Rian Johnson. Now, he's the only person that carries a solo credit of both since George Lucas. And the only person in this universe that has written and directed by that is not George Lucas.
Maybe that's his curse.
Well, having seen all but one of his movies, he definitely strikes me as someone who would have a hard time directing someone else's material.
Yeah.
Because, you watch a movie like Knives Out, and it is very much like, it's got to go from point A to point B to point C.
And exactly how he's thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does use a writing group, though, right?
Oh, does he? I don't know about that.
That was a big thing I read was it's his solo credit, but he had a group.
Oh, I did not know that.
That was lore, kept track of lore. And
that makes sense.
You might correct me, but I also heard Carrie Fisher was involved in this as well.
That also makes sense.
No credit, but...
Yeah.
That would make sense that I'm sure like any large franchise like Marvel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe it has one writer, but then there's 10 guys that are like, actually, Iron Man said this in that movie, which means that this can't happen.
Yeah. The actual guy.
Right. But Looper was the movie he made before this. But he's also made Knives Out after Brothers Bloom. And Brick. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay.
And then the cinema.
That's why Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Little director cameo nod.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
For those who don't know, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the alien that reports Finn and
the snitch.
Rose.
Yeah.
To the police.
And I know he's in heavy, costume, but it looks like he's having fun.
Well, and it's cool because he's not like doing Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
No.
He's like,
hey,
I think they're over there.
Yeah, it's great.
There's a lot of great cameos in this film.
There
actually.
is, yeah.
Yeah, if you, as we go along, if we miss any,
I'll point them out for sure.
And then cinematography is by Steve Yedlin, who's done all of Rian Johnson's movies. The guy knows how to shoot a movie.
Yeah.
Jeez
Does he ever?
Louise.
Yeah.
I mean,
and this movie is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's shot beautifully.
So good.
It's so good.
It's crazy how good this movie looks. The movie comes out December 15th, 2017. It has a $262 million budget. It makes $620 million domestic and $1.3 billion worldwide. So it was a smashing success. And the Porgs, as most of us know, they filmed on this island where there's these birds and they can't move the birds. The puffins.
Yeah, the puffins, yeah.
So they had to figure out a creative way to digitally remove them. I did see some crazy footage though of like puppeted porgs.
Mm-hmm.
The puppeting.
How big are they?
They're the size of like
they're that small. Okay.
Like a football, like a little football.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they're small.
It's so crazy.
wild.
Like a Furby.
That's right. I guess that's Ryan's invention. Like the porgs were his idea.
Cool.
Great.
Which is awesome. I like that part.
Yeah, they're very cool. They're funny. I like them. We also have Yoda making his puppeteering return in this movie with Frank Oz. And when Frank got the call, he's like, yeah, I'll do the movie. And he's just expecting to do voiceover again. And they're like, no, we want you to puppet Yoda.
So cool.
And there's just this great moment in the behind the scenes. It's on Disney Plus. It's a movie called The Director and the Jedi, hour and a half behind the scenes. And Mark Hamill walks in and he sees Yoda and he's just like overcome with emotion.
Oh.
And he's just like, wow,
Yeah.
this is something else. Like, can't believe this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of that stuff is great. And then there's a couple of things we do have to talk about before we even jump into the movie. And that is Mark Hamill said something about this movie. And Mike, do you want to take this? Because I know you know about this.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but he has since taken back most of the comments.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So, but at the time, he basically disagreed with every direction Ryan was taking Luke Skywalker in, the character, everything about what he was having him do.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and in a world where no one reads articles and reads quotes in context, because I was seeing the interviews where he's saying that, and he's very much like, I read the script and I disagreed with every single thing that he said, so I told him so I could get it off my chest, and then I was in his hands. And he's saying things while they're filming like, I trust you. We're going to do this movie. Because he's a professional guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's saying like, Luke isn't mine. I don't own Luke.
Mm-hmm.
I just loan him out and portray Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's because he's a good actor and a nice person.
Yeah.
That's not how it was taken.
Yeah.
No, of course the internet sees that. And then
oh, man.
If you're someone who didn't like what they did with Luke, then you're like, I feel justified in my righteous anger.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that happened. And then there's this other person in this movie called Kelly Marie Tran, who, you know what? She's really good in this movie.
I've always liked her.
And people decided, hey, we hate her. We're going to bully her off of the internet.
Yeah.
And we're going to hate her more than Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
Not quite as much as Jar Jar.
It feels like every trilogy or series needs its Jar Jar moment at this point, unfortunately.
I know.
There's a toxic group of Star Wars fans that create a new Jar Jar.
Yeah. And it does stink like... It stinks too because if, say, you don't like something and you're a well-adjusted human, and maybe you're like, hey, I didn't like Rose in this movie, then you get lumped into this group of people who like despise her as a person.
Right.
Yeah, Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah.
Who acted.
Yeah, and it's like she's doing what she was asked to do, and she's doing that thing well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you didn't like how it was written or whatever, but don't put that on her.
Yeah. She didn't come up with it.
It is a movie at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, so...
But speaking of her...
Yeah, get into some actors.
Well, she's kind of like the only one, kind of. But she's also in Raya and the Last Dragon, The Croods, A New Age, Sorry for Your Loss. She's in an episode of Comedy Bang Bang.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I was hoping I could point that out. I had that in my notes.
No, we
not
knew.
when you're talking to us.
No.
She came on to, I mean, we already knew it at this point, but she did come on to an episode promoting Raya and the Last Dragon, and they talked about Star Wars and stuff, which was pretty fun.
That was fun. Yeah.
Anyway.
Good times.
Anyway.
And then Judah Suotamo plays Chewie, and I think I just forgot about this, but if you're like, that guy plays Chewie, who's that guy? I thought it was the other guy.
Peter Mayhew.
Well, Peter Mayhew. So this is what I read. He started out being a body double for the original actor Peter Mayhew in Star Wars The Force Awakens, as Mayhew's age and worsening health was making it more difficult for him to fill the role. He went on to entirely replace Mayhew in The Last Jedi and has since been Chewbacca throughout.
And he's Chewie in Solo and
Rise of Skywalker. Yep.
Okay.
And both. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he does a great job. I mean, I don't see a skipped beat.
Nope.
But I mean, of course, Peter Mayhew is the best and the legend.
Yeah.
No
they
disrespect.
actually credit him as Chewbacca consultant in
Nice.
the movie. So
okay.
Nice.
they give him a little credit there, which
That's
I appreciate.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're ready to dive.
Let's dive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the movie begins. And we have the title card, scrolls on by. This movie's taking place like right after the last one. Although what is funny, and this is just a movie thing when you're making a series that cracks me up, unless it's like Lord of the Rings or something that takes place really directly. But it is so funny to me that it's like they defeated this Star Killer planet. And they did all this good stuff in the last movie, and then this one's like, there's a small band of rebels that are left. It's like they basically won the war. What are you talking
happened?
about? But those are things that don't bother me. I just don't care about those things.
I'm happy for you.
So that gets under your skin.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we won, we did it. Okay, now we're down to this little core of guys.
Yeah.
What happened? And no like fill in, unless of course you want to go read comics and books and video games. So,
right, throwing it right back at me. But we have this. So we have this moment where the rebels are the first. No. What are they called? Are they rebels in this movie?
The Resistance.
The Resistance.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The Resistance is attempting to flee the First Order, who is bearing down on them, and they.
What's that big ship that shows up?
Dreadnought.
The Dreadnought.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're going to be so much faster.
The movie like starts with Poe.
Yeah.
And he is taking out its cannons, and then Leia says, "We're cool now. You've done enough that we can leave safely." And he's like, "No, we have to take it down. We don't get this chance often." So then there's like a crazy scene of all those bomb ships.
Yeah.
That's how the movie starts.
Yes. And what bothered me the first time, and I'm like ashamed that this bothered me now, is like, at the beginning, Poe's very like quippy and almost like marvelly. He's like joking with
it's
Admiral...
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
He's like joking with Admiral Hux and stuff like that. And that like bothered me when I first watched it. And now I'm like, come on, this is good.
He grows on you. That aspect, yeah.
I think I, this time around, recognized that he had an arc in this movie that I just did not care about the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
Because by the end of the movie, he does his whole development thing, and it's like, oh, that's cool for him. That's how I felt.
Yeah. It's definitely pushing back against the bravado hero, the Han Solo.
Yeah.
Brash, just run headlong and get it done, and who cares who dies.
Right.
Because you have Leia running things, and that's not how she does it. So it's definitely that critique.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
even though she still likes him,
Yeah. And it's very nice. Like I just really like how Leia is treated as a character, and how she's grown into this general. She's always been this strong character, but now she's leading an army, and it genuinely feels like she does know what's best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like we as the audience, and part of that is just the bravado of Princess Leia / Carrie Fisher there.
Mm-hmm.
But when he comes back in and he's like, "We did it," and she goes, "You shouldn't have done it that way," we're like not on Poe's side, even though they did that great thing.
Yeah. Right.
Love that.
I mean, we just saw so many people die.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, at what cost?
Right. The bomber ships, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Getting some tactical fun Star Wars in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember though distinctly going, how can they breathe if the hatch is open?
That
Are the
confuses
shields
me every
keeping the
time.
air in? What's going on? I got kind of lost. But now watching it, seeing the like tribute to kind of World War II aerial assault.
Right.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And you're like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, as we know, George Lucas was splicing in World War II footage in the first edits of Star Wars. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I never thought a shield could probably. That's an easy write-off. Yeah, shield did it.
Star Wars is so fantasy to me that it's basically not even in space for me. That I don't even think about that.
It is space wizards. That's it. And space
Right.
wizards. There's magic. And unless we get into the midichlorian talk, but it's magical.
We've already done that.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yes,
I got a taste of it in episode 1.
Yeah, and you'll get more.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But Yeah, and in that we meet this character, I don't remember her name, but she's Rose's sister.
Yeah.
And she's able to deliver the payload, which destroys the dreadnought.
Epic scene.
Yeah.
Epic scene.
Oh, incredible.
And then we cut to the island with Luke Skywalker.
Really quick before you move on.
Oh, yes,
because I can
please.
hear myself critiquing myself.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we know that the big ship blew up most of the Republic on the planets. We know that. Okay, that's what happened to make the Resistance small. I was texting myself already. Moving on. So, anyways.
See, listeners who text us corrections. It's not always easy in the heat of the moment to remember
it's
every
not.
detail.
I have more sympathy, but I will continue to text.
As long as you just give us context, folks.
Exactly. Here's the clip.
Gosh, I'm telling you, we're recording this. I mean, and this episode isn't due out until like late July, so we're not going to remember this conversation.
This will be but a dream.
This will be gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it is fun that BB-8 says I have a bad feeling about this.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
And he's like the first line in the movie, besides the people who are like the first main character to have a line, which I didn't catch, and I remember walking out and being like, nobody said the line, but. Watching it now, I'm like, yeah, he does say it because Poe's like, no, come on, we got this. It'll be good.
Exactly.
It's cute. I love that.
Yeah, no, it's little Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And freaking Poe's flying. Those shots are just insane.
Yeah.
And he's like drifting.
Yeah.
I mean, Fast and Furious could take a lesson from the drifting in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting watching it now after having watched the new Top Gun. And some of the movements he was making was very similar to our boy Tom.
Yeah.
So that was cool to like see that, like, oh, that's the same thing that happened in that movie. That's really cool.
Yeah. And since I don't know that we've recorded since we've seen that movie, folks, if you haven't seen Top Gun and it's still in theaters, you gotta go. And you gotta go see it again a couple days later if you're smart.
Yeah.
Just like you?
Yeah. Anyway, so then we see Luke Skywalker. And it's directly when Rey hands him the lightsaber.
Yep.
And then he takes it and he throws it over his shoulder and walks away. Now, this is where Rian Johnson's thesis begins. And this is where the movie really grabs me in a way of like, because I think even if you don't, well, no, I don't know. This movie on I'm forgetting the word, but all I can think of is a theological level.
Okay.
But that's not what I mean.
I'm there. I'm with you.
But on like the theological element of this movie is putting forth this thesis that if this franchise is going to move forward, if we're going to go forward, we have to tell new stories and we have to let the past die. And now that to me is very exciting because every, like month now, it feels like we get a new Star Wars series that's announced or something like that. And it's like, right. And as much as I was excited about Obi-Wan, when I started watching it, I was like, I guess I don't really care to watch stories about characters I've already spent hours with anymore.
Oh, we're definitely not finishing the show after you said that.
Well, no, I will finish it.
There's only 3 more episodes. Just hang in.
It's just, and I'm not even throwing anything at the show. I just think like,
hey, man, I know exactly what you mean.
I'm just ready for Star Wars to move forward.
Because when I watch a show like that,
yeah,
we've only watched the first 2,
right?
And they were okay. And as watching the show, I just was thinking, why do we care so much? Whatever's going to happen here is going to happen, and it'll basically not affect any change.
Yeah,
because like that's how it feels. Because I haven't seen the rest of it, but like because of what we know is to come, it's just like I don't care about any of this. Ewan McGregor's nice. That's great. That's how I feel.
I think you've gone through the trenches of Fast and Furious and you've come out jaded and pessimistic about the world.
Yeah.
You've got a little bit of shell shock.
Well, it's just the thesis of this movie and I think this extends to franchises in general and this is something that I've always appreciated about Marvel is it's like they've done a couple of prequels. Not prequels, but movies that take place before events. But Marvel's interested in like, let's move forward with the story.
Mhm.
We're always going to move forward. We'll fill in every once in a while. But I just wish Star Wars, I wish we could let go like, hey, we're going to do a Jabba the Hutt series or something. It's like, no, this is a universe. And it feels like there's 2 planets.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So on the basis of this movie, I love that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And it's definitely, it was interesting to go back and read articles from when it came out.
Yeah.
And then a year later, and then now, and just see the changing. Because like we watch it now and we know what happens in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Right.
We know what's coming up, so that filters into how we watch it now.
Yeah.
Right.
But when you're first experiencing it, and with Snoke and everything like that, all the buildup from Force Awakens, and then all the criticism of Force Awakens of like, you just rehashed everything old and didn't give us that much new. And so then the reaction is Ryan going, okay, let's get rid of the past.
Yeah.
Move on. But for me, it was too much of a pendulum swing.
Yeah.
It was too far. Like that's what I feel about them. It's too far. And it's like, I still want the core of Star Wars. I want Luke Skywalker. You gave him back to me. I want to experience Luke but I agree. Yeah. Move on.
How did he tarnish Luke to you?
Here we go.
We're basically there, so let's just get into it.
Yeah, we can just talk about the whole Luke on the island section.
Yeah,
kind of go
so
out of order of the events of the movie.
Yeah. Well, Easter egg, when they close up on his hand, you do see the blaster shot from the Sarlacc pit when he last got shot.
Whoa.
So that's kind of neat.
Cool.
I have never noticed that.
Yeah, there's no reason to notice it unless you're a complete Star Wars nerd. But yeah, you have that moment of him taking, and the build up to that moment was huge. I don't know if you remember that. It was huge.
Oh, I remember that feeling.
And the movie, like Force Awakens, you're like, oh, Luke, we're getting Luke back. And then that moment, and he's just,
Yeah.
That was my childhood. He just threw it over his shoulder. And that's the other thing is the universe, or the extended universe, had built Luke to this near godlike character. And also like this eternally optimistic character, like even in the face of like death and danger, he's still like, there's still good in this person. There's still hope for us to win. It's always there. And then here's this grumpy, burnt out, overweight Luke Skywalker. that was the moment. It was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This guy supposedly can take down Star Destroyers with the Force, and here he is, doesn't care. That was an interesting moment.
So with the Kylo stuff, the whole reason why he's this way. What do you think about that kind of stuff?
Well, that's the thing is like, I didn't feel it was big enough to get the response we got.
Yeah.
Like watching it today, I feel a little different. The character arc of Luke is interesting. Maybe I'm older. I don't know. It's not been that many years, but we've been through some stuff. Maybe we've all like, hey, no, I get it. This is reality here. But in that moment, I remember just being like, what, like completely thrown off, which was Ryan's goal, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even Luke will say it's not going to be how you expect it to be to Rey. That's not exactly what he says. But that's another line that Ryan's throwing. It's some breaking fourth wall moments that he's like talking to the fans. Like, this is not how you think it's gonna be. So
now, do you feel like, and I hate to invoke the immortal bard that is everyone's favorite hero, the Joker, but do you feel as though Rian Johnson is trying to be kind of like edgelordy in the way that Todd Phillips is?
What's edgelordy?
Like I'm doing something cool and intense just because.
Oh,
and so I don't care what you think.
Luke doesn't give an F anymore.
Yeah. Do you feel that he is doing that where he's like, hey, here's a bad adaptation of Joker just because it'd be cool to see him kill somebody on television? And this
I
is
think
preference.
yeah, no, I think he was trying to, in reaction to how Force Awakens was taken.
Uh-huh.
I think he goes, I think we need to move on from the past. Fans didn't seem to like that. I want to tell new stories. I mean, he was signed on for many more movies.
Yeah.
So he wants to tell new stories in the Star Wars universe. So I think there's an element of like, I don't really care. I'm going to tell my story. And
yeah,
I think that's there, but I don't think it's far as a Joker. I mean, because
right. Yeah.
the end moments of Luke, still like the two sons. I mean, it's there. It's still like, hey, fans, remember this? Yeah. So it's not like completely like throwing the character out completely. So I don't know if edgelord would be a good description. Yeah.
I feel that like it definitely feels like it's coming from a place of love and storytelling at the end of the day. And I do wonder how much is a reaction to Force Awakens, because these movies came out so quickly. This is only 2 years after Force Awakens.
He's writing the movie while they're not finished yet.
Right. So but that doesn't mean that they're not on set and he's not, making changes and whatnot. But there's still a movie like this. You got to have it pretty much good to go by the time you start filming.
Right.
But that you do have a point. I think there is a reactionary element to that.
Right. Yeah. And going from JJ kind of big, JJ's storytelling.
Yeah, I don't think Disney's above changing things, no matter how soon it's supposed to come out, because they literally refilmed a whole movie.
Right.
Yeah, which we'll talk about next week.
Yeah.
That's a very good point, Jordan.
They got money, they'll spend it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is just crazy, like, seeing that, I think it was before the movie even came out, they're like, yeah, Rian Johnson's going to make his own trilogy.
Right.
Like, we're signing him on, and seeing the behind the scenes, Kathleen Kennedy just being like, I can't believe that we got him to make this movie. This is so awesome. Mm-hmm. And now it feels like, whenever they're making new Star Wars announcements, people always ask about the Rian Johnson trilogy. And it feels like both Rian Johnson and Lucasfilm and Disney are like, yeah, Ryan's busy. He's busy right now. But I do remember, like, 30 minutes into Rise of Skywalker, I was like, oh, he's not making a trilogy.
Oh, okay.
No. It was like, he's not coming back. We have to retcon the entire movie we just watched. Oh, man. So bad.
Yes. So, let's see.
Wait, what do you think about Luke?
As someone who has no knowledge beyond the movies and is my favorite character in the Star Wars universe, I think it's easily the best like character story in any of the new Star Wars movies. And I think I am a sucker for that storytelling device of like someone just being like, I've done it all, I can't help you, and then coming back so epically. I mean, nobody in their right mind is going to watch the last 20 minutes of this movie and be like, Luke sucks. Because that's incredible. That is like the most incredible thing.
I'll be honest, and I had tears like welling up watching it, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. This is epic, but getting there is really hard.
Yeah, for me, same. No other knowledge of Luke either. It's like, yeah, this is great. But now thinking about it and how he went into like, he saw a darkness within Kylo Ren that that was growing and growing and growing, and he's given himself over to the dark side. And it's like that was, he was torn between like, do I just nip it in the bud now or not? But then it's like, if you go back to the originals, the entire time he's like, there's good in Darth Vader, I feel it.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like he didn't feel any good in Kylo Ren. Like you said, the most optimistic person. So I do get that is kind of like, that just doesn't sound like Luke to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's willing to see it in Darth Vader, who went around killing Jedi and innocents for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet here's this teenage kid who may be following the wrong path. And And
Yeah, he hasn't even reached his full potential.
Right. But you
I
do see he's disgusted with himself. We get that. We get
Yeah,
that
yeah,
callback
right.
of like, I couldn't believe I went there.
Yeah.
I failed. But it's too late. It'd been seen by Ben and it's too late. And I mean, that's an interesting topic. But it still didn't feel like that was like, oh, and then you became a recluse, left everybody. And I mean, but again, there's so many things they didn't show us that would have added to that. Like, had we seen some of the students dead, maybe got a higher rating, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just Luke and R2, stuff's burning down. You know, there's not that moment of like, oh, I could see why you'd be completely traumatized and want to just leave.
Right.
So.
Well, I think an overlooked element to the whole Luke discussion is how much pressure and he does say shame in the movie, which I think is an interesting word that he uses. He just felt shame when he did that, which I love. But I don't love shame, but I love that he
love shame.
Yeah. But this idea that like his sister and his sister's husband were counting on him, and they're his family.
Right.
And he could not do it for them, and he almost killed their son. He was like close to killing their son.
Yeah, his nephew,
his blood. I mean, it's just, I know that could push me over the edge.
I have another question.
Yeah.
So the prequels were too much about how Jedi were trained and all that stuff, but we know that
they were too much about that, not enough about constitutional rights.
I needed more about
I needed more tax law.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that was, obvious. It was an accepted popular thing in the prequels, and then the Anakin stuff happens, and then by the time we get to the 4 through 6, it's like Jedi are like myth.
Yes.
Kind of at that point. Mm-hmm. So with Luke basically opening up a school, like, was that a huge risk? Because that's probably the first Jedi school to open since the Anakin stuff.
Since Order 66, it's the first time Jedi.
So I can also understand that, like, that failing, despite how it happened.
Like, he's the last Jedi and he failed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I guess,
Mike?
Well, you almost had me, and then I came to my senses.
we know you can turn. We can
there's
turn you.
There's good in him. I know it. no, but that all that leads up, and I'm like, yes, it's horrific. He's shamed. But what I know of Luke Skywalker, it wouldn't turn into hiding.
Yeah,
he would try to redeem himself.
Yeah,
that's what I would know of Luke, of like, okay, he would seek after Ben no matter what. He'd chase him around the galaxy, trying to bring him back to the light, trying for forgiveness. But instead, he shuts himself off from the Force, goes to a hermitage and says, I'm done. I'll just cause more harm, which I can also see.
Yeah.
And it makes sense in this plot, this context. It makes sense. But that's what I know of, like, with Rise of Skywalker, some other movie, and you got Mandalorian and Boba Fett gave us a little bit of Luke again and stuff like that. So it's filling in now where at the time in 2017, December 15th.
Yeah.
That's not there. So it's just like, oh no.
Right.
Okay.
What are you doing? Like, this is not the Luke I know. And so.
Well, and it does make me think of, like when you hear about pastors who've been at churches for 20 years or whatever, and then they leave and then they completely leave the faith.
Right.
Like, I guess I like to look at the movie through that lens as well. That's just another way I kind of view it, where it's like even the greatest of these can fall. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you don't have much of a story, like character arc, if he's just like, I'm ready to go. Let's go,
Yeah, no, I've just been waiting here for you. And now that you're here, Ray, you brought my lightsaber. Thank you.
Yeah, I just needed that one thing.
I couldn't find it. I didn't know where it was at. And
I was flying around the clouds for centuries looking for that thing.
Yeah, no, that totally, I mean, it makes sense. It was just, I remember at the time being so shocked.
Yeah.
And the buildup of, like, the previous movie of Ray walking up and seeing Luke.
Totally.
And then he just tosses this, it just felt so like, and that's done,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
I think he earned
subverting
some of the best.
expectations for sure.
Oh, totally. That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah. Well, and he does do my favorite subverting of expectations later in this movie, which we'll get into eventually.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Kylo.
Okay.
Kylo is on his ship. He talks with Snoke. And Snoke, I love this. He's like, "You're a child in a mask. Take that stupid thing off."
I love that.
And then he goes into the elevator and destroys his mask.
Snoke.
I love Kylo. It's such a good character.
Kylo is the best Star Wars character. I'll say that.
Of all time.
For me, even above Luke.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. No,
Nice.
Kylo, I love.
That's an acceptable answer for sure.
No.
I do think that Adam Driver throughout this trilogy,
he's incredible.
like, maybe has the best performance out of anyone.
Yep. Even if his scar did move from here to here.
Okay.
I still.
Okay.
I'm still
did it?
Oh, Ryan changed it because he thought it looked dumb.
But they'd
Is
already
it-
filmed some.
Well, in Force Awakens, he gets slashed across his nose.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see.
In Last Jedi, it's off to like the eye. He just thought it looked better that way and just changed it.
It's kind of silly.
Classic movie
He's-
magic.
Yeah, he's creating porgs. He's moving scars.
Yeah.
He's just throwing everything out.
He really is.
That's great.
And one thing, and they didn't totally clear it up, but when we were watching the movie, Jordan, because you and I were talking about how when we saw this, we were much more in a phase of like, I'm anti-CGI, CGI stupid. And The Force Awakens is so great. And this movie has a ton more CGI.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that feeling jarring after watching Force Awakens and even Rogue One.
Yeah.
Like, it felt
I think
jarring.
they have more puppets, though.
Well, what was interesting is they have a ton of puppets, and there were
Right.
actually some shots I saw of like those horse things that even last night I was like, oh, that's CGI. And then I see this
They have puppets of those?
7-foot tall horse puppet,
For
and I was
real?
like,
Yeah.
oh, that's real.
Oh, that makes
Yeah.
them cooler.
Like when Rose is looking at it
Yeah, it's
in
real.
the stable, that's real.
They still
how
should
does
be
it-
in their own movie. But
How does it look like CGI though? Because
I
it
do not
doesn't.
know.
I
it
think
just-
I think they're dressing it up.
they are. That makes
think
sense.
that-
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's what I remember. There.
Oh, that's
That's
weird
crazy.
because the behind the scenes footage, it was like that looks like a horse in front of me. Like
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But so there's stuff like that, and there is a lot more CGI in this. But one thing that was mentioned in the behind the scenes is they're talking and they're like, Ryan really likes to do things practically. He wants to be on location. He wants to make everything as practical as possible. But there is a money factor to all of that. Like, yes, it would be great to shoot everything practically, but we can't afford to do that. Was the implication in this conversation that like the production manager or somebody was, one of the producers was having?
Money grows on trees for George though, and Disney. So I don't get that. It's like, really? Spend another $50 million? That's gonna hurt you? I don't know.
but it's interesting, you know, because
He got a bonus for being under budget. Maybe that's what it was.
but still 262. I mean, we're
it's a lot
talking
of money.
like,
It's a lot of money.
and as great as 1.3 billion is, that's not 262 is not factoring in the advertising cost
no.
of this movie.
Yeah. No.
So it's just
They
interesting.
made more than that though because of products they were able to make from this movie.
Totally. But
Oh yeah.
anyway, I just
Wait,
I found
so
that
what's
interesting.
the CGI thing? Oh, just that he didn't get to do as much as he wanted.
I think there was an they didn't like specifically say it, but there was an implication that like they were always trying to do practical, but there were certain things that they're like getting ready to shoot, and it's like this will cost so much money if we use an animatronic. If
Okay.
we CG it, it'll cost half as much money.
Okay.
And you're making, you know, scenes where there's like 200 characters in a shot. Like we
Right.
have to cut some costs here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So
It doesn't bother me today.
it really doesn't.
Yeah, because just those couple years ago, it's just, I would be so annoyed by stuff like that. But today it's like, I don't know, it looks good.
Right.
It holds up well.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
there are
hasn't been that long.
certainly like designs in this movie that I'm not ultra fond of,
Like what?
like the horse things.
Okay.
When I did
All of
see
Kanto.
the practical, actually, Kanto grew on me this time. I've
Is
always,
that the casino city?
yeah,
It would be
Okay.
a great setting for a Finn and Rose show. It'd be a great.
Which is what we got.
We got the pilot episode.
Yeah.
If you took that 10 episodes, it'd be great. Just pull it out of the movie.
I agree. The set, I mean, I think they could have gone more extravagant or something with it, or been maybe a little more showy.
More extravagant?
It was just clean. That's like all it looked like to me.
It looked not lived in Star Wars. It looked
which
it
makes
was
sense
Great
because they're
Gatsby
all
in space.
Yes,
And I think
they're
that's
rich
what
and
they're trying to
stuff.
do.
Oh, totally what they're trying to do.
I just think they could have personalized it
Yeah,
a little bit more.
but we're not even there yet.
We're not even there.
So, let's see. The Empire. Okay, we're back on the island?
No, you can move on, but we're still
Okay. Well, we should point out that there are crazy like brontosaurus nipple creatures that squirt green juice. I couldn't have described that worse than I just did.
That might get you an explicit rating at this point.
That might be
Do you remember though? Okay, because in this movie, Adam Driver is shirtless, and the internet went crazy.
Oh,
with
yeah.
that. And do you remember seeing memes with the milk with him,
Yes,
being so grossed out?
Buff Kylo with milk.
Well, as you pointed out, if there was going to be a SpongeBob SquarePants live action movie, they would have to cast Adam Driver because he is a square.
But yeah, he is a square.
You said he's a square.
He's a block. He's just so square.
He's very square. You know what is a very interesting thing about seeing, I love going to the theaters and seeing movies, and I love experiencing it with an audience. But there is something interesting, like the first time I saw this and he took his shirt off, there was like this like breath in the audience, whereas like, oh, okay, they're doing like a shirtless thing. This is interesting. And then there's other jokes in the movie, like when Finn wakes up and it's squirting water everywhere and he's running around and everyone's yucking it up.
Naked suit? What's going on?
Yeah, weird.
Yeah. And it is interesting sometimes, like last night watching the movie, when he had his shirt off, it did not feel weird to me at all when I wasn't experiencing it with an audience that's like laughing and like sighing and having all these when I was able to just be like, oh yeah, he's just in his chamber, like, and he doesn't have a shirt on. It like wasn't weird at all. And some of the humor that like drove me crazy the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh, this either isn't really as funny as my audience thought it was funny, or it is good. Yeah. And some of that is just like not watching it with an audience, as fun as that is. But sometimes it's kind of nice to be removed.
I think for me, this is still kind of around the time when Marvel being so quippy was still annoying to me as well.
Yeah.
So like you said earlier, like this movie, there just seemed to be some quippiness that now I don't care about. But at the time was like, don't be a Marvel movie, be a Star Wars movie.
Right.
And it's like, I think they were trying to be a Star Wars movie the whole time.
Yeah.
In that way.
And after watching Knives Out and stuff, it's like, well, I mean, Rian Johnson's a goofball. I think that's, you hire him and he's going to be goofy.
Yeah.
I don't know how much that is Star Wars or a Marvel influence.
No, I think Star Wars there's always a goofy element to it.
Yeah.
I mean, think about we first meet Yoda and he's stealing stuff and hitting Luke with a stick.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I mean, even like shirtless things, you have Luke, in the back to tank in a diaper and a mask. Definitely wasn't as square or ripped as Adam, so it's a little different. But there's weird things that happen. Yeah, I mean the cantina scenes. It's like, what's going on? There's an blue elephant going on.
Right.
I don't. Yeah,
Max Rebo.
Exactly.
But yeah, so another great quote from Luke is, "It's time for the Jedi to end."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we're caught up on that.
So you said this in the last episode. This island is a real old monastery thing.
Yeah,
in Ireland.
And I believe that we don't know for sure, but it's believed to be like a Christian monastery at the time. Maybe for sure if that's
yeah. That's a Christian tradition there. Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
It's awesome.
We have frog monks, so it's cool.
Yeah,
there's frog monks in this.
Frog nuns. I should clarify. Frog nuns.
Yeah, right.
who were incredibly hilarious to me this time. I don't know why I missed just the physical humor with just a look. They're so annoyed with Rey.
Yeah.
We were laughing so hard last night at the scene where she cuts off the top of the rock and it hits him and they just look up at her.
It just totally takes out their wheelbarrow full of stuff that they're trying to get around. Yeah. Probably from repairing the gunshot, or the blaster shot. And they're just like, really?
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so great.
But so the Alliance.
We got green milk. Yeah.
No, okay, we're off the island. We're going back to the Resistance.
The
Resistance jumps to light speed, and they get out of it, and they realize that the Empire is able to track them through light speed, which should be impossible. Now, there is a scene where they explain why it's not possible. I've never been able to totally understand what they're saying, but I just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Do you know where they first mentioned this type of technology, though?
No.
Rogue One.
Oh,
okay.
Where they're going through and finding the Death Star plans. There's the hyperspace tracking is mentioned.
Oh,
so it's not from just anywhere. Ryan didn't.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely going to remember that.
Yeah. You didn't write it down while you were watching it?
No, not this time.
I'm going to need this later because that's important.
But yeah, it always goes over my head, but I'm like, I get it. I understand what's happening.
Yeah.
So now they're running low on fuel, and we're going to have what many have jokingly dubbed as like the slowest fight and this slow drive through space, which I think is rather clever, kind of turning it on its head. But I do understand that it's I guess it's not exciting for a plane to or a ship to run out of gas and then just be killed.
Yeah,
because they're just out of range of the bullets, the lasers,
the lasers. Yeah,
but I think I like this. How do we feel about this? How's the water right now with everybody?
Oh, I'm fine with all of this.
If I turn off my science brain, which I should be off in Star Wars. I have to always remind me that. Because the idea that two different ship manufacturers were like, hey, the top speed of our ship should be this and no faster. And that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, you can't think about that, Mike.
No, you can't. No.
Come on.
So as a
I'm cutting that. No,
yeah, exactly. You should totally cut that. But as a tension builder, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like they're right there. They're coming at you. You can't get away.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to think on your feet. That's awesome. But the rational part of my brain is really? They both go the same speed so that they can't catch up with each other or fall back or.
Is this another? So is in this part, Poe again is action, action, action. We got to do something.
Yeah.
So that is a good he is expressing how we're feeling. Let's do something.
Yeah.
But there is nothing to be done. And then this is coupled with this is when Finn wakes up.
Yep.
Around that time. And also around this time, that's when Finn is learning what's happening and is okay, I'm out. I got to go find Rey.
He's I got to desert again.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here.
That's his thing. He just he deserts people.
Yeah.
And then that's when he meets Rose, who realizes he's deserting. Yeah. And she stops him and she's like, my sister died yesterday or today or whatever, and you're just going to desert?
I think it's fun that he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
Right.
Amongst them, and she's starstruck.
Right.
By it. I just think that's a nice touch.
It's a great touch.
But then again, we do learn a lot about her quickly where she's starstruck, but she was just mourning. She goes through a lot of emotions, and then she's okay, now I have to detain you.
Yeah.
Because you're a terrible celebrity.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Kylo launches a ship, and he has a great moment where he is about to shoot down his own mother. And he has a moment of humanity where he does not do it, but then the TIE fighters next to him fire upon the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then it explodes. And if you've seen any movie at all, you're like, well, that can't be her death because it wasn't epic enough. This is one of the biggest characters in film history.
But you're totally also okay for Admiral Akbar to die that way.
Yeah, right? He's just like a throwaway line.
Admiral Akbar and Princess Leia are not totally equal.
Same.
It is kind of a bummer, though. It is like a throwaway line for him.
What does he say?
Well, this happens, and then later on, they're like talking about it, and they're like, Admiral Akbar, blah, 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 this person.
Oh, yeah.
And then this person, it's like, oh, he died?
You know what, though? This is in the tradition.
With the red shirts to mix
this
Star
is
Trek
in the tradition of George Lucas not giving Chewbacca a medal in Star Wars 1. This is good. Rian Johnson is like, I'm going to learn from the master.
Wow.
We're about writing a fan theory.
Yeah, there'll be another trilogy, and there'll be an Akbar statue somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
It'll make it all better.
Yeah.
But what was so when it explodes, Leia comes out, and then it cuts away, and so you're like, okay, they're gonna cut back to that. But if we're sitting there in the theater, tragically, Carrie Fisher has passed on.
Yeah.
It was
at this point. And we're like, I'm kind of like, okay, even though I know better as a movie watcher, it's like, I guess that's it with her. I guess they'll recover the body or something like that, because that was how they decided to write her out. And then it cuts to her. She's starting to like freeze in space, and she twitches. And then she flies using the power of the Force into the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason that, much like Luke Skywalker, I pulled out my lightsaber in anger. And I wish I hadn't, and I only feel shame.
Just like Luke.
Because this is a freaking great moment in the series.
Mm-hmm.
This is a wonderful, beautiful, poetic moment. And when I first saw it, I was just like, they never set up that she has Force powers, and this doesn't make any sense, and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, she should have just died because she died in real life and stuff. And now I'm sitting there watching it now, and I'm like, this is gorgeous. I'm almost crying. This is amazing.
And you could hear the Harry Potter soundtrack playing as she floated down. Yeah, so in my head it was, oh, they're finally showing Leia with the Force. But
the
also,
exact opposite of
the exact opposite of like, just let her go. That would have been like, for Kylo, that would have been like he killed his father, but then there's a moment of hesitation. But then what he's created kills his mother.
Yeah.
That would have been like, as far as like Kylo falling apart, becoming a loose cannon. I don't know. It would have been epic.
But what's funny is, like, we do say that, you know, especially because she passed, but they'd already shot scenes for Rise of Skywalker. So it was like, there was, because I remember thinking that, like,
she had finished everything for that movie, and
and it's like, yeah, they're about to turn in this movie, like, to theaters. There's no changing this sequence, Micah. And it's also one of the better sequences in the series. It's awesome. And I love it. And I
still looks so
reprimand
corny,
myself. It didn't to me this time. I've always thought that it looked a little corny, but this time I was like totally caught up in it. Anyway.
Nice.
What do you think, Jordan?
It's not just, well, I'll let Jordan speak.
It's great.
I'll rant.
I remember feeling the exact same way the first time I saw it, where I was like, ugh, whatever. Of course she can do the Force. She's Luke's brother.
Yeah.
This is
or
so
sister.
lame. Or sister. And and just like saying, like, you know, it's just like the Marvel effect. It's like, of course she's not going to die.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no one's ever truly gone.
True. But watching it this time, I'm like, I like it. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Simple.
not just the Force ability to fly, right? It's also to protect yourself from the vacuum of space.
Yeah.
It's like she protected herself from, like, it's the science rational. She can't do that, but it's space wizards. Of course she can do that. So,
Yeah.
And also, I mean, Star-Lord made it out in space for a while.
He's a god.
He is half god, okay?
He's
He's half celestial.
Any part of God in you, I think you can do a little bit okay for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Give us Guardians 3 already.
I know.
They finished filming.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, it's next year, huh?
Yeah, I
Dang.
think so.
We might have to do a week-long celebration and just rewatch And I'm talking about on the podcast.
Sure.
Just redoing episodes for Guardians.
I guess this moment would have been made better for me if like we would have had Poe or Finn just freak out even more about what just happened.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, oh wow, she's back, and then move on because the pacing's so fast. It would have been interesting to see like Poe or Finn just be like mind blown, like she can do it too. I mean, do we need Luke?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
especially I mean, she full on did the Force thing, but like in the next movie with Finn the whole time like being too afraid to say that he's Force sensitive. Just like it would have been helpful to have any kind of context for that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of them never actually committing to it.
Oh man, I can't wait to hear what you guys say about the scene where they're sinking into the sand. And Ray. Anyways.
I gotta tell you something. Well, and one thing I want to point out that, Mike, you won't be privy to yet, but in our episode on Force Awakens, Cutter Calloway talked about how the music in the series, there's the Han and the Leia theme that's played throughout, and I believe he said when Han dies it plays, and then there's a scene later in Force Awakens where it plays with Rey.
When Rey comes back after he's died.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he was hypothesizing, and he was like, I'm kind of shooting from the hip here, but this idea that like maybe John Williams and the creators are trying to tell us like this series is actually more about these women than it was the men that we thought.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was watching this sequence with Leia, and then it's playing that theme again as she's flying, I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is proving his theory that like, yes, this movie's about Luke, but in a way it's kind of really about Leia.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there was even discussion at the time of like, okay, Force Awakens is Harrison's movie.
Yeah.
The next one's gonna be Carrie's, and or Mark actually, and then the next one would be Carrie's, and they had to do a flip flop because of Carrie's passing, and so
I know, it's such a bummer because it would have. I mean, JJ's hands are tied. As good or bad as things you can say about Rise of Skywalker, there's only so much he could do.
He had to spend an hour retconning the previous movie, so.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't have to.
Oh, he had to. No.
He's like, no, I really liked Snoke. He had a lot of potential. We gotta explain that.
His pajamas were amazing.
Uh-oh, I lost my notes here. Okay, here we go. So now we're back at the pork barbecue.
Yeah, with Chewie.
Such a great moment.
It's so great. Just pointing that out. And they look delicious.
They do look good.
They look
like cartoon chicken.
They do.
They do.
It was like
they're so perfect.
Yeah.
And then there's this great moment that's like the epitome of perfect fan service, where it doesn't go into too much fan service, but it's still giving you what you want. Is when Luke goes into the Falcon and he's looking around, and then he's like, I can't do this, I can't help. And then R2 wakes up and plays the Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
And then Luke even looks at him and says, that's a cheap shot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cheap shot.
That's
such a great
so
line.
good.
Mm-hmm.
and that's certainly like Ryan, like you can tell someone loves the series if they're writing a scene like that.
Oh yeah.
Few can write it that eloquently.
It was him. He actually changed the script. It was going to be BB-8 going to the island, and he wanted R2.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
I think we actually mentioned that in the previous episode.
I hope so. Otherwise, I'm texting.
So around this time ish, Rey and Kylo start talking to one another Force-wise.
Yes, and they're having this bridge of minds.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike, Bridge of Minds. Are we yay or nay on Bridge of Minds?
Yay.
Okay.
I like it. The Force is so mystical. Anytime they make the Force more mystical, I'm on board. So,
yeah.
So do we think it's they're so connected with each other because of their conflict, or if it's more of a like? And I'm not.
Sounds like someone doesn't remember the reasoning.
Someone hasn't watched the next movie.
Why is it?
Well. Oh, do they explain it more in the next movie? I don't remember.
Do they explain it in this movie? and I just
Well,
forget?
Snoke
really.
says that he bridged their minds.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
He does say
So
that.
he-
But then we
Put it
find out
together.
more in Rise of
That's right.
Skywalker of like,
Yeah.
because he even says the dark rises and the light.
Yeah, because he says like I was basically breaking Kylo down so
Mhm.
that this moment can happen.
And he's basically like, I realized that you are more powerful, and
Yeah.
I need to
right,
turn
right.
you.
That's right.
Mhm.
Because there can only be two,
Yeah.
as we know.
Right.
But yeah, I like how these
I'm
scenes are
sending you a
shot.
book. You're gonna
Yeah.
Darth Bane. Here we go.
Okay.
You better read it.
Yeah.
If it's
Give me
on
the
if it's on
comics.
the Marvel app, I can read it.
Yeah. Yeah. The comics. Yeah. I'll send you the ones you need to read
Wow.
as
Okay.
homework.
Okay. Hey, I love me
People
some
read
Marvel.
it that way.
I'm almost done with the Amazing Spider-Man, folks. I got like 90 issues left, and I've read all
Wow.
900 plus Amazing Spider-Mans. I'm so close.
His eyes are about to fall out of his head.
So close. What a ride. Anyway,
Anyways.
by the time you're hearing this episode, I've read them all,
Wow.
and my life is better because of it.
Great.
But yeah,
So then you ask me why I'm so into Star Wars and
Yeah.
you've read 900 plus
Yeah.
comics of Spider-Man.
well, and it's
Okay.
actually well over 1,000 because I read a lot of we don't have to get into it, but
yeah.
it is funny because I was thinking when you were talking about Luke, I was trying to think of an equivalent for Spider-Man,
Oh yeah.
like if they betrayed his character to me.
Yeah.
But I did think of an example that they did that I loved, and that was in Spider-Verse when Jake
Yeah.
Johnson's Spider-Man is like, "No, I've given up. I've been divorced. Like, I can't do this."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, this is great. This is such a great this is the best. This is the best." And then because he's gonna come around eventually,
Right.
and of course they make arguably the best movie of that decade, Spider-Verse,
Sure.
up there at least. Anyway. We have to talk about Star Wars. We're so far into this.
Oh man, it's so good.
Okay. So Kylo and Ren are Rey.
Ray, yeah.
They're having this bridge of minds. They have one that ends in a blaster being fired.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of hitting their story here, and then they have one later where he can like feel the rain and stuff. And
Yeah, the
I
ocean
just
water. That was
love
incredible.
Yeah.
the practicality of how they decided to shoot this, where they are in their own environments. There's not like a CG element bridging them. They're just looking at each other. And it was so much more effective than the 1,000 other ways that another director would have done this.
Yeah, like a weird hologram thing or
Yeah.
or something like or in a mind castle type
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Having
it
them
was-
just looking.
Like there's that part too when Kylo's like, can you see my surroundings?
Yeah, I was gonna say
I can't see yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's almost he's suddenly like she's seeing within these walls.
Yeah.
It's
He's
a really
infiltrating.
it was a really subtle way to like let the fans know what they're seeing. Like they see
Yeah.
each other, but
Yeah.
they're not necessarily seeing everything else.
Yeah, it's great.
That was
But-
really neat.
Then you see that moment where Kylo looks up when he sees Luke walk out. So he can
Yes.
like see him
Mhm.
Yeah.
as well. And then Luke's like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
So he sees it too. And then that's when he pulls down the hut.
Yep.
And
okay.
because Rey and Kylo had this like connection, and they're both trying to seduce each other to the
Yeah.
other side.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Him.
The other side
we're
of their
working a
hearts.
little bit harder.
Yeah.
I'm using. They say seduce to the dark side.
No,
I'm using
just,
terminology.
It's a joke because
You
he's
are.
shirtless in one scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all of that, no matter how many times, first, second, third, or fourth, I'm like, yeah, baby. And I love this. I mean, that's one thing I really did enjoy about the new trilogy was the new uses of the Force that they used, where it didn't feel like it was completely out of left field or random stuff, but kind of just like the mind probing, and the lightning just seemed more intense and scarier when Snoke
Right.
uses it in the movie, and then
Mm-hmm.
this connection in their minds, very cool.
Yeah.
Although since I was talking in Force Awakens about how I like to view the mind probe as a new thing, and then there's shows that have come out where they've used the mind probing a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
it's
that-
not a new.
Bums out my theory that I have that you'll hear about in Force Awakens and rip out your hair over.
I kind of feel like I should have got a special patron tier and just gotten all the episodes out early.
Yeah.
As soon as they're done, and like make some notes, you could do some corrections. And then...
I haven't even edited that one yet.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Patreon.
Really?
No. But we have one. It's in the episode notes, and there's a lot of great stuff. Join our Star Wars celebration over there. So let's talk about Holdo, who is Laura Dern.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So can I just say about
Please.
her? First time I saw it, probably like up there on a character I hate most in the series.
Yeah.
I hated everything she did. Did not. I still am not quite convinced about Laura Dern's casting. I think she does a really good job, but she always does a good job. It's Laura Dern.
She's a pro.
I just don't know if it's the best casting. I don't have a better idea. Her design is just one of the most boring, stupidest designs of a character.
Design is not great. I'm with you on that.
So bad.
It's a great Hunger Games character.
It seriously is. It
you're
seriously
right. Yeah,
is.
it
And
has
that's
that
probably
vibe.
why it sucks more, because it feels like I've
feels like
seen
that.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So that sucks. And then, that being said, this second time around, what she does makes sense to me now.
The Holdo maneuver is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And when
epic.
at the beginning or the first time I saw it, I was like, I don't care what she's doing. Just kill her already. But this time I didn't feel that way.
However, had she like told Poe, "Hey,
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna do this thing," probably Finn and Rose don't have to leave.
Yeah.
They can all just wait. She does. I mean, there's a plot hole there. But
Yeah,
See,
that's still
I don't agree with that, though.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. If you were a acting general in an army and you have someone who is famously does their own thing,
Mhm.
I wouldn't tell him that plan either. Plus, that her plan was never to do the Holdo maneuver until the end, after everyone leaves.
Right. I mean, you're willing to give up your life. So it's not something you're like, "Hey, by the way, if this happens, I'm going to do this." It's in
Yeah.
the moment. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, they're shooting down our getaway. I need to do something." And she acts as a leader.
And yeah, I think Poe had to himself just calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his whole thing, this movie. So
When-
he's just asking her constantly what's going on, and it feels like he's in the dark.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah.
he doesn't have control.
Yeah.
And so he's
right.
just grasping at it and trying to push.
Yeah.
Plus, having a mutiny is kind of a fun thing that's
Oh, yeah.
never been in
Yeah.
Star Wars. I'm like, oh yeah, that's clever. Every
Yeah.
time that happens, I'm like, oh yeah, ships are just pirates in space.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's watch Clone Wars. There's tons of pirates.
Yeah, yeah. It's that stuff is so cool.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, I think, could she have told him? But then I wonder if she did tell him, and we're pretending that this isn't a written movie. If she did tell him,
Oh, he's doing that, or
he would probably still mutiny, because he'd be like,
Probably.
no, we have this other idea.
Yeah.
And also we're gonna jump into Lightspeed again. So
it's definitely a character within the tradition of George, of strong female character,
yeah,
like from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Leia, and that's actually from, your Hidden Fortress episode. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
There's a strong princess character here. And it's another character in line of that tradition. I just don't think she, until that moment, doesn't fit that role very well.
yeah.
It's like, oh, here's Leia's best friend,
Yeah, and that's what I wonder if
and she's the more
maybe-
comforting one, and Leia's the more brash one. It
Yeah.
feels sitcom-y almost. Until that moment, and you're like, oh, she's an incredible leader, and she
That's-
has a history that they mention.
Right. That's why I wonder if just casting someone else would be different.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I love Laura Dern.
Yeah, of course. You're welcome on the show anytime, Laura. We know you're a longtime listener.
Wow.
But
Ever since Fast and Furious, she's been
Yeah.
locked in.
She's a big.
But yeah, I just think that watching it again, her character, because I think the first time I was very much like, what is this? But I do like how he is tricking you, being Ryan, that you're thinking of all the movies you've seen where it's like,
Oh,
if
yeah.
the general would only let this happen, and then you find out it's another subverting expectations. You're like, yeah, the hotshot guy was wrong.
Yeah,
the guy that's always right. And, he's this kind of parallel. No, that's something else. Never mind. Forget it. Cut that, Micah. But it's just, that whole story really works for me.
Yeah. Well, even the moment where her and Leia share that moment of like, we like Poe, but he needs to learn some things.
Yeah.
He gets knocked out.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's having to learn what real leadership is from these two different women, which is a pretty cool story plot. But and outside of expectations, especially given the political climate at the time, it was very let's not forget that.
I remember seeing message boards when they're like, Jyn Erso, how could a girl be in the army and stuff like that? And I'm like, are you serious? Like, what
the amount of times the phrase identity politics attached to Star Wars since that movie, it was crazy. But
not to rehash that dark time.
No.
There's a girl in my Star Wars movie.
If you look back, there's always there's girls in your Star Wars movie. Always.
Crazy.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. I just, there's something about now, and even how she comes in, she tries to be stern with Poe.
Yeah.
And you don't really buy it. At least that's the way I was. And Poe doesn't buy it. He's like, well, I'll get around you eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe if it was just the purple hair. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that alone.
I do wonder if
everything.
If her design was different, if it'd just be like, oh yeah, cool.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's just,
a little more general, a little less senator. I mean, more like a senator than a general.
Right.
It reminds me a little more of some of the designs in the prequel movies.
Right.
Which maybe they're going for to kind of tie the series together. Or did she just leave
Canto and, she was gambling, had to buy some weapons and, I don't know.
So meanwhile, Finn and Rose meet with Poe and they say, we have this whole plan. We need to find a master code breaker, which always cracks me up that they use that phrase.
They need to break into the bad guy's ship to disarm their tracking thing so that they can then jump into hyperspace and then they will lose them. That's the plan.
That's the plan.
Okay.
But they have to go to this place.
Yeah.
They have to go to this place called Canto Bite.
Well, who tells them to go?
None other than my favorite character in Star Wars, Maz Kanata.
Yep.
As she's shooting someone.
Yeah. This was always so funny to me because I'm like, what? Who's got the camera?
Yeah.
It was a toddler and they were just running around.
Yeah.
But I mean, this universe certainly has flying droids, so it's certainly plausible that she's got one. Yeah. But anyway, I did think that there was a subtle joke at the prequels in this that I've never noticed where she says, they're like, what is going on? And she goes, it's a trade dispute you don't want to know.
It's a union thing.
It's a union dispute. Yeah.
And so I do think that's Ryan being like, remember how bored we were with all of that stuff? Like, what if I say this is a union dispute? We don't want to hear about that crap anymore.
And then they do another funny thing where she's talking about the yellow thing that the red flower that they're supposed to find.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just pops up.
Right.
Into the hologram. And it's like, who did that? What? I don't understand that technology.
Her droid is incredibly well done.
Really wonderful. Because it is like, I get that you need to show us a visual so that we know what we're looking for, I guess, but how?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
it's a keyword. It's a Google thing. You just say it and it pops up. She uses it a lot.
Right.
But then our two other characters go to Canto Bite.
Mm-hmm.
And this was where...
With BB-8.
Yeah. This was where until last night, I was like, this part of the movie cut and I don't like at all, pretty much. I don't feel that way anymore. We'll get into it. So they get there. They go to the casino. We have this nice sweeping shot. It is kind of fun. Yes, the style is different, and it's taken me a while to adjust to that. But again, it's like every time I watch this movie, I like it more. So when I was watching it this time, I was like, oh, I love this aesthetic. This is cool. It's different. and it's not like a rusty old bar, because that seems to be the only place where we can show that many aliens.
It's a nice contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are trying to show this like upper class that we've never seen outside
they're
of people
living,
that frolic in sand.
They're living on top of like child slaves.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically.
And they sell weapons to both sides.
Yeah.
They're the scum and villainy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad.
And so
Leonardo DiCaprio walks down the stairs and he holds out a champagne glass as you walk into the.
That's where that gift is from. It's from this movie, and not
it's from this
Gatsby.
movie. Yeah, that's little known fact.
When you said that, I was like,
wait,
I thought you were
Leo
gonna
in
say,
this movie?
yeah, like because maybe we missed a cameo, and I'm like, okay, he would have been an alien, and I'm like, but that really doesn't seem like something Leo would do. I'm going through all of that until you say lifts up his glass, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's making a joke.
Yeah, no. Actually, Carrie Fisher's French bulldog is a cameo in this scene.
Really?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
How?
Yeah. It's just the French bulldog. It's a pet of one of the aliens.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's cool.
That's her dog.
So cool.
Yeah, that's
I love
kind of
that.
neat. Yeah.
Well, and I know I saw, but I think it might be a cut scene, but Warwick Davis is in like a spa. Is there a spa shot in this movie?
Not that I remember.
I can't remember if they cut the scene that he's in, but or if they pan it.
Okay, because there's a spot, there's a shot where, you know, it's like the roof is crumbling because the horses are running by, and Warwick Davis is walking by in an alien suit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird looking alien too. It's cool, and people are getting massages behind him.
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar.
But and they probably threw him in, I don't know, another costume as well. And then there's another weird cameo within the universe, because there's this drunk CG little creature that's like 2 feet high, and he starts putting coins in BB-8.
Right.
And that's none other than Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
So that counts as a cameo?
Well,
I think so. I mean, it's a little like, hey,
it's an Easter
this voice
egg.
actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually a better depiction of Luke, I think.
Oh, okay. Get out of here.
That's the Luke I was hoping. Drunk,
okay.
Gambling away his life savings.
Zoom meeting now. But so all this is crazy, and Finn is just like, you know what? This rules. And then the camera pans, they find none other than the co-writer on Iron Man 2, Justin Theroux.
He does a lot of writing.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out for fun.
Okay.
He also wrote Tropic Thunder.
Wow.
With Ben Stiller. And so he's there, and I remember being so, like, confused in the theater.
Yeah.
And he says, like, a couple of lines, and then he's never in the movie again.
Nope.
Well, how do we feel about that?
So
It's so lame.
First time I saw it, I was like, this is just terrible writing. All of this. I don't understand what's going on. It did absolutely nothing. This time
I meant
around,
specifically Justin.
Yeah, but he is in all of that too. But
it's why
okay,
he can be
if
there.
you just want to talk about him, we can just talk about him. But I just don't understand. But I just don't get that.
Yeah.
Is that not who they were looking for?
No. What's expectations, right?
Were they looking for Benicio the whole time?
No, I think they were.
About?
No, I was just saying like the use of him as an actor in the scene.
Oh, I think it's fine.
I just thought it was like jarring and kind of takes me out of the movie every time.
I was going through all the cameos, and it was surprising how many of just Ryan's friends are in this movie.
Okay.
And like directors from other movies and stuff like that. And then you have Prince William and Prince Harry as stormtroopers.
What?
Yeah. It's a scene that's cut, but they were stormtroopers. So
Man,
like,
if anyone wants to be in this movie, just ask.
Yeah,
Seriously.
apparently it was just like, hey, here's these guys. You know, yeah. I mean,
I imagine having royal princes in a movie is just more trouble than it's worth.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
That was probably such an annoying day.
Yeah.
Just because of all of the hoops that they probably had to jump through.
Probably. But I do kind of like the Justin thing. It is just a little jarring. It's always a little like, oh yeah, weird.
Well, it takes you out of the world a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, that's guys from my
world.
from my life. That's weird. And not in the context of an actor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But so what were you saying?
Story-wise, I don't get it. Is that not who they were looking for?
So they were looking for Justin.
Okay.
In doing so, they get arrested and put in a cell, and they happen to come across Benicio del Toro.
Who happens to be another code breaker,
Yes.
just not the one they were looking for.
Yes.
Okay.
This isn't the code breaker you're looking for.
And I did hear a really interesting explanation of him, once again in the behind the scenes, where they said that they kind of wanted to set him up like he's another Han Solo, not in like the suave way, but he's this, smuggler with a heart of gold.
He's on no one's team.
Yeah, and then like you have that great scene where he takes the smelt that you thought he took from her, the Haitian smelt or whatever, and then he puts it in there, and you're like, oh, he's like a good guy, and then he sells him out. And it's like the opposite of Han Solo, who goes through all this stuff, and he's like, you know what, I'm not going to help you guys. Then he shows up, saves the day. And this guy's like, no, I truly am only in this for the money.
Right.
And he proves that point further, which is like, don't serve anybody and you're free.
And it's interesting that he tells that to Finn, who in the last movie was going through all that.
Yeah.
And then kind of in this movie, like he's kind of the same sort of, where like all he cares about is Rey, probably more than he cares about whatever the Resistance is doing.
Yeah.
So if he has to go find her and that means leaving, he'll do it. And then this guy tells him, don't even be a part of it. Don't even care about anything. And then I do think that it's interesting later on in the movie when on that salt planet, he is the only one driving toward the thing.
Yeah.
Like he's going to sacrifice himself, and then someone prevents him from doing it.
Yeah.
Got a lot of interesting stuff going on in this movie.
Finn's cool.
Yeah.
Finn's cool, and then he doesn't do anything in the next one.
Nope. Not a thing.
So apparently Joaquin Phoenix was initially offered the role of DJ.
Who? Oh, is that the name of...
DJ is this character.
Of Benicio?
Yeah, and...
Oh, okay.
It's literally on his hat in the Star Wars language.
Oh,
It says don't join, which is what DJ stands for.
Okay.
So I brought the character down a notch for you at this point.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, your name's just don't join. Oh, that's clever.
Yeah. Great
But
job.
apparently, Mr. Phoenix was offered this role first.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
And Del Toro was supposed to be Darth Maul. So
so he finally gets to be in Star Wars.
he finally gets finally
Good for
was
him.
offered 2 different movies. Yeah.
Benicio is just a little zany, and it just doesn't totally work for me.
Yeah.
But I think the character and what he's in the movie to do, and like you kind of pointed out, which I didn't even realize, like he's showing Finn, who still doesn't really know what he's doing, like, hey, you were a bad guy, then you're an all good guy. It's actually not black and white. I think that's important for his character to understand.
Well, it's interesting too, because when he's trying to escape and Rose finds him, she tells him who he is. Like,
Yeah.
you're the great Finn.
Yeah.
And then we kind of get to this moment. We do get to this moment, and someone tells him, like, reminds him, maybe this is who you are. And then later in the movie, like I said earlier, it's almost like he thinks like, this is my ultimate test. And then someone tells him, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I can't even say anything much more than it's interesting, because I'm not quite sure this whole part of the movie too. I just still don't really know how I feel about it, because they don't do anything. I don't even think that they really grow that much. If it's supposed to be like a development thing,
Well, it's just a little side adventure. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and it feels like, and I know Finn is even further forgotten, but it is like, yeah, he is really important and still an interesting character, but we kind of just like the Rey stuff took up so much.
Yeah, and I have thought that until last night.
Yeah.
But I do think that it sets this tone, and it kind of sets up potentials for characters, and just this idea, because the Star Wars universe has always been very black and white, and this is like maybe we can explore some of the outskirts a little bit, like Rogue One does. Rogue One does a little bit of that exploring.
But what I feel about this Finn stuff, if that's what they're doing, it feels like they're not even saying anything. That's how it feels to me.
Okay.
Like I know that Benicio's character brings up like no one's really perfect.
Yeah.
Because the good guys are also buying guns illegally or buying weapons illegally. I get that gray area stuff, but in terms of like Finn stuff or Rose stuff, it's just like, and they're here to do nothing. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because they have this whole thing going on, and it's tough because we know Rise of Skywalker, we know who Rey is.
Yeah.
Eventually, but Ryan is saying you could be a nobody and be great.
Yeah.
Right. And so then he uses these nobody characters like Rose
Mm-hmm.
or Rose's sister, characters that would just be in the background getting blown up. He focuses in on those characters.
Yeah.
And Finn is like, hey, remember those faceless stormtroopers? We're going to make one come alive to you. He's that character.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So there's all these characters coming into the story that are nothing. They're not Skywalkers.
Yeah.
They're not Obi-Wan Kenobis. That's what I've always appreciated about Ryan's work here.
Dang, that's really good. I hadn't thought of it like that.
But it all kind of gets smashed
Yeah.
in the next movie. But it's kind of, as a standalone, you're like, oh, yeah. No, because even the Canto kids, that use the Force with the broom and stuff, they're nobodies, but they've been given this hope. The kid uses a Force to grab the broom.
Yeah.
And so it's this thing like, you don't have to be somebody to be important. And he's using all these side characters, but it doesn't, the Canto, but that storyline doesn't seem to work because it doesn't move Finn anymore, really. He's still just obsessed with Rey.
Yeah.
Even though there's a budding romance between him and Rose or something, like there's
kind of.
I see what you did
but
there.
It's like
budding,
but it feels
budding
Rose.
I just remember like not long after the movie came out, we were talking with people about it, and this one guy, if you remember, was saying like, yeah, but what they're doing is like they're saying like you don't have to do anything. They're like doing this like in the Star Wars thing, like you don't have to do anything, and it's like, no, you have to do something. It's a major blockbuster. You can't just do nothing. It's like Star Wars is not the franchise that's going to take a stand to like bring a movie to a screeching halt because it's interesting to do that. They're not doing that. They missed their mark. I remember that was like that makes no sense.
Yeah, it does work for me now though. But
that's good. I don't. It doesn't upset me like it used to.
Yeah,
for sure.
But.
You're
does
making me like
the...
this movie, and I don't like this.
Well, what's interesting about what you said about the nobodies, and coupling this with, and not to get confused with Bob Odenkirk nobody, but the nobodies in the franchise. It's interesting to me that, of course, I'm making vast generalizations about the fan base of Star Wars, but when in Episode 1 they made midi-chlorians part of how you become a Jedi.
Right.
Everyone who was a Star Wars fan was like, that sucks. I thought anyone could be a Jedi. That was the fun of it. It could be a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then Rian Johnson spends this whole movie saying, it can be you. At the end of the movie, they're playing with toys.
Yeah.
They are literally us, the kids at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it can be any of you. Kylo says, your parents were nothing. They were junkers. They didn't do anything. They're not important. And it's crazy to me that when this movie ended, had no problems with that. I was like, that is the coolest and smartest decision you could make about this trilogy, that her parents are nobody.
Yeah.
And then fans are like, yeah, you reestablished that anybody can be a Jedi, but I really want midi-chlorians again. Give us Palpatine, and she has to be Palpatine's daughter, or Obi-Wan's daughter, or something like that. And that just sucks to me so much and drives me nuts about Rise of Skywalker. I remember walking into it and I said, like, as long as her parents remain nobody, this is great.
And then you walked out of the theater and you were like, they didn't do the one thing I asked them.
Although the 2 times I've seen it, I was like, huge problems, but I did like the movie. So we'll see how I land these days. But
yeah.
It's just funny that a fan base in general can flip-flop like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, when there's that much money involved from the fan base.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Money. Unfortunately, it's still a corporation making a product to sell.
Yep.
Well, and as we've discussed, this is Star Wars 77 is like the beginning of that whole thing. We're not a podcast without Star Wars.
Right. Yeah.
It feels like we've talked about the whole movie, and there's so much we haven't talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, can I just say one thing? In the Canto section, after they ran away on those horse things, Finn says one of the funniest lines in all of the entire series, where like he says something to the effect of like, "Yeah, but we tore that town up."
Yeah. Well,
something like that.
Rose says, maybe, I mean, this line is like up there with like the sand line in Attack of the Clones. She goes, I wish I could put my fist through this lousy, beautiful town. And I'm like, what? Are we watching the Maltese Falcon right now or something? What?
You see here? It was,
Did Humphrey Bogart show up or something? What is
Who wrote this line? I mean,
very weird.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But meanwhile, I almost said Obi-Wan, but it is Luke Skywalker decides to finally teach Rey. And as he's teaching her, there's the great leaf sequence where he's describing the Force and he tickles her and she's like,
so great.
I can feel it. I can feel it. And then he smacks her hand.
Which calls back to Yoda hitting Luke. With
yeah,
you're right.
He's just doing what he was taught, you know?
Yeah. And then I do really love that sequence. It's cool because we just haven't seen that type of photography in Star Wars where there's like time-lapse images and she's seeing this beautiful nature and the balance between it all.
Which is the gray. It's again, it's the gray Jedi kind of theme that has
in between. It's not all bad, it's not all good, like beneath.
What's life and then the death, and the death feeds the life, and there's warm and there's cold, and there's all these. It's and it's shot like no other Star Wars film. Yeah, there's literally nothing like it.
So good. Yeah, but she's like immediately pulled to the dark, and he gets very scared, and he's having flashbacks basically. And
I just wanted him to pull the saber and just.
It's like, not again. So then she goes to this cave, which is the equivalent of the jungle sequence with Luke in Empire Strikes Back.
Which is the like ultimate Jedi test, right?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
The temptation, right?
Did Anakin have that in this way? And I'm just forgetting.
I don't think he did. I think he saw a pretty girl.
Yeah.
And he was gonna,
and he didn't know what to say.
He was gonna go see all the stars in the galaxy. He's gonna see them all.
Yeah.
Yippee! He didn't.
There's some Clone Wars animated episodes that he kind of has a test, but
okay.
Oh yeah, isn't there one where he goes to like a planet that is the Force or something?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one was cool. That was a really cool episode.
Physical?
Yeah. There's like a dark and a light on the planet, and it was cool. As much as I haven't really watched a lot of that show and don't particularly enjoy it personally, there are a lot of great episodes for sure. I just wish it looked better. If it looked better, I would have watched it all 2 or 3 times by now, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, I know I'm offending people by saying that, but we're going to keep on going.
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic you'll change your ways.
So with race test.
Yes. Oh, yes, race test.
What do we think about that?
Love.
Mike?
I love I think I really liked it. I liked the experience. For a guy who wanted to move on from the past, he's using a lot of devices from previous films at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of callbacks going on. You have the feather or the leaf thing, and then you have the test with the dark side and to see if you'll go towards it. And then much like Luke, who sees himself in the Vader, sees herself.
Yeah.
And everybody thought that had something to do with her parentage, like, oh, she has no parents, she can't see them, so she was a Force baby, Yeah. I remember that rumor was going around at the time. So.
Oh yeah, but I think what I'm realizing now in what you said on these like similarities between Empire and some of the other movies and stuff is I think ultimately he is arriving on this thesis of we do need to move forward, but we need to respect and cherish the past. And I think a lot of that theming didn't connect, like people didn't realize was in the movie. They just thought someone was destroying their childhood. You know?
Right.
That sounded like I was putting you down. I wasn't, because
You literally pointed at me, Mike.
that's
Like
how I
some
felt
people.
when I first saw it. You know, I felt like he did it, where it's like, okay, even if I don't like it, he is trying to make something that is good. You know, he's not trying to make a bad Star Wars movie.
Yeah. No, and as you reflect on it, you're like, oh, he brought in Yoda as a puppet, and like all these different things. You're like, oh, he does respect what Star Wars is. He's just, hey, let's move on. Especially, it's interesting.
Yeah. And so speaking of, should we get to Master Yoda, or go ahead?
Real quickly, I found I can't remember what article I read it from, but there was someone made a really interesting point about Rey, that she's desert planet, right? And so she comes to this island. You know, we get, like, I think in Force Awakens she's talking about, oh, it's so green, and like this probably would have been the first time she experienced swimming.
Yeah.
And she's falling into the water. She's coming. There's a lot of like first things happening for her, tied with the dark side. So that's an interesting like little thematic thing going on. But she swam pretty well for someone who's never been around water.
Yeah, she did.
Well, and so I should say about Canto Bight, I did write this, even though I was just praising that sequence. I did literally write this yesterday. Canto Bight doesn't totally work, but it's trying something new.
Okay.
So
your words.
Those are my own words.
That is fine with Fast and the Furious, but with Star Wars.
Yeah.
No, not a lot is fine with Fast and the Furious. Don't get us started.
Yeah. I listened to every episode. I know.
Thank you. Because we suffered for it.
Yeah. By the end, I was like, I don't like these movies anymore.
I'm just so, every time I see an announcement about Fast 10, now I get them sent to me by people.
Oh yeah, I send everything I find about
which
it.
Which is fun. It's fun. But I always am like, is there a way that we can not see this in theaters? Can we get out of this, or
do a Patreon special and like rent out a theater?
I have thought it would be cool to do something like that, where like if we got to a tier, we could like rent a theater and go see the new Marvel movie or something with our patrons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how exactly.
I know you've got a global audience now, and so
so global.
Yeah. It'd be
the Abby Dobby kind of the contingent there would be upset.
Yeah.
No. But yeah. Anyways,
let's talk about when young Master Yoda shows up.
Young Master Yoda.
Yeah. Luke is like, I'm done. You know, at this point, I think Rey has left the island, and he's gonna go burn down the temple that has the sacred Jedi texts in them. And then the camera slowly pans over and you see those ears and a glowing blue. And this scene is incredible.
Yeah.
I would go so far as to say this is the best scene in all the new Star Wars movies.
I think I would agree with that. Yeah.
I'd go so far as to say this is the best scene in a Star Wars movie since Luke rescued his father in Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
For me. I know you have a lot more connection to the Anakin and Obi-Wan stuff.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But I think that doesn't even come close to the beauty of this poetic moment. But
Grumpy Yoda and Grumpy Luke on a log.
Yeah, it's the best.
And they light stuff on fire.
He's about to love. Yeah, he's about to light it on fire, and he's like, don't even try to stop me. And then Yoda...
Well, Luke can't do it. He hesitates.
Yeah, and then Yoda puts his finger out, and a bolt of lightning comes down. A practical explosion happens on a set that's really that big, and lights on fire.
Cool.
And then he's like, Yoda, the sacred texts. And he's like,
he tries to run in and get them, but it's too late.
And he's like, page turners, they were not.
I loved that.
Yeah, he says everything that young Rey needs, she already knows.
Yeah. And he's basically like, have you read them? And he's like,
Yeah. And then he says something really wonderful, like, the whole point of masters is so that their pupils can be better than them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we live through them, basically.
Yeah.
Which, again, is like commentary on the series, you know? Like, that's marrying that idea of like, let's move forward, but then marry this stuff.
We're
like,
so
keep
obsessed
it.
with just how the sausage gets made.
Yeah.
This whole stuff. Just let Yoda say his stuff.
It's so good though.
Okay.
It's so good.
It is good.
I love it. It's
but,
just
but
the
we
best.
also get like the reality that Force ghosts can interact physically with the universe.
Oh yeah, because he hits him, right? Doesn't he thump him on the head or something?
And then he's also controlling the weather.
Yeah, I mean, he starts a fire.
Oh well, yeah, that's a big point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it brings down lightning, force lightning. I don't know, or just normal lightning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
hopefully normal, because evil is evil.
Well,
right?
or if it's like, hey, rules are gone, you can use force lightning now.
Yeah.
Did Yoda not use lightning?
He catches it and throws it back in an orb.
It's a Dragon Ball Z montage.
Yeah. Right. And that's the really cute fight between him and Saruman.
The fight that I was really bracing myself, and then this time around I was like, I guess it's not that bad. It's kind of fun, even though it kind of sucks. You'll hear about it on Friday.
Oh, I will write very sternly written letter. I'm sure. No, but it brings in a whole new element to Star Wars. That's one thing, the scene that at the time, I don't know if I was like happy with, of like, okay, so Force ghosts can just come back and interact. They're not really dead.
Yeah.
It's kind of that, well, it's the Marvel effect that this character can't really die or will come back. And, and then has a lot of questions of the end of this movie. You're like, well, is he gone?
Will he catch a lightsaber in the next movie to undo him throwing a lightsaber in this one? Maybe.
No, but there's, I love that scene. I love that it's a practical puppet.
Yeah.
I mean,
and having the fact that Frank, he's passed now, right?
I don't know.
I believe so.
I think he did.
Yeah.
But having him come back and he's voicing it again, and he's puppeteering it for his presumably final appearance ever in movies, Yoda.
He's still alive.
Amazing. He is?
According to IMDb.
It's Louise. The guy's in his 90s, I think.
Ancient.
What year was
he born?
Older
than Yoda.
1944. I think he's younger than my Nona.
Oh, never mind. He's not. So I thought he was in his 90s for some reason.
Wow, that's kind of mind-bending.
I think he's all like
he's 78.
Okay.
He's young.
I guess like John Williams, I just have never seen him not look like an old man.
Yeah.
So it's like
he's always looking old, and
he's one of those guys that's
like Ian, the Emperor. He's always he's just old. All the time.
He turned 30, probably like lost all his hair, and then it was like that's how he has looked. So he's aging incredibly well because he's always looked.
Well, you have to do things like all the puppeteering. He's probably crippled, arthritis. He's an old 78. Yeah.
I mean, unless do we have anything more on that scene?
Well, I was just thinking. There's a lot of just practical reality of like the previous characters can't move on anymore. Like Peter Mayhew, you have Harrison Ford's getting up there. You have even Frank, like the people who made Star Wars, even involved in the prequels. They're kind of getting to a point where they can't. So even I think that had to fit into Ryan's outlook here.
Oh yeah.
Even Carrie's, even Carrie's getting up. I mean, I think even R2D2, Kenny Baker, he passed before this movie, so they have a puppeteer running R2 instead. There's all these characters are moving on. So just interesting. There's just practical reality of like these guys won't be around, so we've got to move on.
Yeah.
Of course, now we have the new technology. We can bring anyone back, but.
Right, which is a little scary, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, just on a personal level, I know that allegedly the next Star Wars movie is going to be directed by Taika Waititi, the beginning of a new trilogy, I believe, that's supposedly not connected, but that was the last I heard. Maybe you've heard something different.
No, I mean,
do you think just ever that there is going to be a sequel to Episode 9 that will involve characters like Rey, Finn, BB-8? Do you think that on a personal level?
I don't think so. I think just from the actor's point of view, I think they're kind of moving on. Even Jason, specifically Jason. But then
Jason.
Yeah. Or not Jason. Yeah. Finn. What's his name?
Oh,
John Boyega.
John Boyega. Why did I have Jason in my head? John Boyega. I mean, it was all over in the news, kind of his experience of being Finn and how he disagreed with that.
I forgot.
So I don't see, and without some like huge changes and promises, I don't see him coming back.
Yeah.
Maybe into a TV series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could see maybe a TV series with Rey, but
I would love to see Daisy back in it.
Mm-hmm.
She's great,
but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it'll be. I guess it'll be a grand experiment of how well that future Star Wars movie, if it ever.
I think if anybody
out,
could do it, he's kind of more endeared to fans based on his work with TV series episodes and just
you're talking Taika.
Yeah. I think if anybody could pull it off, Taika could do it.
It's funny though. I just can't imagine a Taika.
It's going to be super
Star Wars
goofy.
Movie.
Yeah,
super goofy. Which there's a history of like there's like those two stormtroopers that's like from a comic. These goofy stormtroopers, and so he was using something that was actually older.
I forgot he's been involved in Star Wars. So he's kind of already cut his teeth.
TV episodes, and they were great.
Yeah,
and
that's right. I guess I can't imagine it now. I forgot about that. I'm just like replaying the Thor Love and Thunder trailer in my head, and I'm like, I'm curious how this guy's gonna do it.
He's gonna make stormtroopers funny. That's how he's gonna do it, or whatever he does. It'll be interesting, I think.
Yeah, it should be starring Rhys Darby as a Jedi.
And Jermaine.
He's the Sith that's going up against him.
Jermaine. Yeah. That'd be great. I would love that.
And then Brett's got to be in there.
And then Brett's just,
Okay, my ticket's sold.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the Snoke chamber.
Epic.
They come in.
So Rey comes thinking that she can turn Kylo.
Yeah.
Like that she has got the upper hand now, has convinced him.
It's Luke and Vader. Yeah.
Yes, but she is immediately taken to Snoke. And then we talked about this earlier where he's like, I broke Kylo down and bridged you guys so that I could get you.
Yeah.
Come to me.
So they're in there.
But she is unwilling.
She's unwilling. He's fighting it. And because again, Adam Driver's so good, I'm like, I genuinely just don't know what he's gonna do. Is he gonna take it, or is he gonna be like, no, I'm gonna fight for Rey and I'm a good guy now? Because I just can't get a read on the guy's acting in all the right ways. He looks so conflicted. Mm-hmm. Just like how in Force Awakens, I was like, maybe he's gonna give his lightsaber to Han and be a good guy in this series. This guy's that good at acting.
Right.
So, but then he's seeing Kylo is getting ready to kill Rey, because then this will make him powerful again. And he goes, I see you twist the lightsaber. And then he's twisting the lightsaber that's next to him with the Force. So he's using his mind to do the same actions against Rey, but he's using them against Snoke. And I remember in the theater, I was like, hell yes. He turns the lightsaber, turns it on, it cuts to Snoke, and he is now cut in half. And then Rey lifts up her hand with this great dolly shot where the camera pans back and the lightsaber flies to her and she catches it. Yep. And we see his body flail over. Now,
in his gold pajamas.
In his gold pajamas. Just the Rey is my number one best decision he made on the movie, no parents. My number 2 is killing Snoke. That, I think, is the best decision.
Oh, the whole subvert expectation thing.
Well, for one, subvert expectations. For 2, I've seen so many movies with the faceless bad guy, and as cool as Snoke looks and sounds, I'm far more interested in this conflicted Kylo Ren character.
Oh, yeah.
And I know what Snoke is. He's an evil bad guy. I don't care.
Yeah.
I know he's not going to have a character arc like Thanos, so I don't care. He's ultimate evil. I don't care. I've seen it a million times. So when they just straight up kill him, I was like, that is so smart. Now you don't have to worry about this ultimate bad guy, and we can just focus on Kylo. And it's like Kylo stealing this power now. It means a lot for his character. And then you leave the movie in a place where it's like Kylo he is now like the Emperor equivalent. Like if at the Return of the Jedi, the Emperor was killed and Darth Vader was like, now I am the ultimate bad guy.
Yeah, it's what Vader wanted to do with Luke, right? He wanted to take down the Emperor, or even with Padme. Hey, we can rule the universe before he becomes Vader. He always hated the Emperor, and so it's Kylo, which is interesting because he wants to complete what Vader couldn't do, and so he has this moment where no, I'm going to take out the big baddie. I'm going to do what Vader couldn't do, and he does it. Yeah.
And I walked out of the theater, and of all the problems I had with it the first time, when I found out people didn't like that, I was like, huh? You don't like that? And then I was remembering, reading all the articles where people are like, it looks like he has a lightsaber blade that's in his head. Perchance he's, Darth Sidious reformed or something.
What are you even talking about?
I'm just referencing so many articles that I had read at the time.
A lightsaber in their head?
Well, like the scar was from the lightsaber.
And all these people are like, oh, maybe he's the guy who trained the Emperor and all of this stuff. And then when he was just killed, I was like,
maybe he's Darth Plagueis. And there's all the surrounding mythology.
Yeah.
And that speaks to what you were saying, where it's like you go into the theater, it's coming, like you're excited to see this movie, and you have all these theories, and then it's nothing you expected, and you're mad. And But then now, years later, it's like, I mean, I don't know what you think, but it's like, no, that was the right decision. Although I always loved it, for the record.
Well, given what Snoke became, you're like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. But the amount of time that us nerds have invested in figuring out who Snoke was, and for Ryan to go like, yeah, I don't like him. It was another moment of like, yeah, JJ brought him in. I'm not cool with it. I'm going to kill him. Like, and I'm not going to tell you who he is either. And that was the infuriating part.
Yeah.
And it was a common thing of like, within just this series, here's this mysterious thing. I'm not going to tell you about it. And I'm going to get rid of it. Like, Captain
that's
Phasma.
The classic JJ problem.
Yeah.
I love JJ, but that's his thing. It's like, he literally has like his mystery box theory where it's like, you just make up a bunch of stuff.
Oh, like in Lost.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. I hadn't done as much work on a entertainment property since Lost with the Dharma Initiative website and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt conned again, but
but Ryan fixed it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it now? I wonder though.
Now it makes sense, and like given what we see in Rise of Skywalker, it's like okay. But I remember at the moment, because you don't have that, like I think of like what people experience just watching Empire Strikes Back, and then they've got to wait for the next movie, and then you're trying to figure it out. So you had this mysterious character. Again, it's like the pure black evil, like it's black and white characters here.
Yeah.
But and so it's in that way, it's not how cinema was going, let alone Star Wars. Even in the Clone Wars and other properties, they're not doing that. But there was like Disney was feeding the rumor mill of like putting out other pictures like, oh, remember that mosaic on the floor of the Jedi Temple? It kind of looks like Snoke, like, so everybody's just trying to figure it out. And then it's just like, doesn't matter. He's dead. It's kind of a lead. You're just like, what? Same thing with the Knights of Ren. Like there's this big buildup of who they are. And then
that was funny because that was not movie at all.
No.
Because I did not even like know who they were. And then going into Rise of Skywalker, everyone's like, I can't wait to see the Knights of Ren. And I was like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah, no.
Like, you've probably never heard
what
that.
What are you still talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it does, and what we get in the next movie, it still doesn't matter. Like,
and they
show them to you, but
it sucks when, and I get your sentiment, and that totally does make sense. But
now it's not as big of a deal. It's kind of like, I know where this is going and I'm fine with this. But at the moment it was like, wait, what?
What's to me that matches up with like the Boba Fett thing.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like you have this character that looks cool. No one promised that he was going to do extraordinary things. Then he dies and people are like, 40 years if you destroyed this character I love. And it's like, there was, in Empire Strikes Back, he just walks around. He doesn't do anything.
But it's all the extended universe stuff.
Yeah. And it's like,
and there was a comic with Snoke and he's talking to Ben and on this little planet thing. And it's like, you're starting to, but you still don't know who he is. And it gets you to go to the movie. That's a great technique.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I mean, it was epic because of the fight scene that follows.
Yes.
I mean, it was like, you almost forget really quickly.
Uh-huh.
No, Snoke. Whoa, cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's a nice trick. It's like, hey, squirrel.
And Kylo like shoots the guy with a lightsaber. That's a great moment.
So epic.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Snoke?
It's fine.
That needs to be a bumper sticker. What are your thoughts on the Snoke?
It's fine.
Yeah.
Good action scene after.
Yeah. It's not Harry Potter and it's not a wand related thing, so you're not heated about it.
I mean, yeah, we already talked about the crimes of Grindelwald, so.
Oh man.
He committed so many crimes. And then his lover had so many secrets. So many secrets.
Oh yeah, that's the one we watched. Man, I don't care about any of it.
They're interchangeably bad.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Anyway. So then Leia wakes up, takes command. They're making their escape.
So they're going
on the Holdo
to
maneuver, right?
A bunch of little ships to escape the big ship.
Yeah.
To make it to this planet where there's
ships,
where there's a resistance, like an old resistance base that they'll be able to hide in if they can make it there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he found out that Holdo's plan was a smart one, granted their fuel. And then there's been like a mutiny, and then Leia wakes up and brings it back. And this is when Poe's like, oh, I guess she did have it figured out. But then they're still able to. Oh, Benicio's character. So I guess this does make the Canto Bight sequence a little more important. I'm just realizing. Benicio's character sells out that the Resistance is escaping this way, so the Empire is then able to track them and start killing their transports.
Right. Yeah, which escalates everything.
I remember the scene where Finn and Rose are caught and are going to be executed. I remember that scene being way longer.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Me too.
And, yeah.
It's all three of us.
That's
all three.
Great. Yeah.
No,
don't feel
crazy. It was extremely short. I
was so thankful. It was just like, because that part happens, and then the ship starts getting blown up. And then that's a whole thing. And then I just was like, wait a second, we haven't even gotten to the salt thing yet. How much is left in this movie? It is they pack so much into this movie.
It's a really well edited movie. We gotta say.
This really feels like the Two Towers of this trilogy.
Yeah.
They're putting so much in.
Well, it's insane how like this sequence you have the Holdo makes the lump to light speed, the jump to light speed in perchance possibly the best looking shot in Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Where she flies through all of them.
Yeah, well, I remember just thinking like this is probably one of the most incredible things in film. Like,
yeah, I remember doing that too,
and especially it's silent.
Yeah,
that moment, like you got it's Star Wars is always sounds and beeps and and all of a sudden just boom.
Yeah,
I mean I remember being completely just done over by that.
Mm-hmm.
It was wild.
Me too.
So like that's happening. It's cutting to Rey and Kylo who fight over a lightsaber. It splits in the air when the ship gets cut in half. That's as cool as it gets.
Yep.
And then it's also showing Finn and Rose who are trying to escape and fighting Phasma. And it's just editing.
You mean Chrome Dome.
Chrome Dome, yes. And it's just editing seamlessly between them. It's just really well done.
BB-8 saves the day. You made a comment that I agreed with, where like the first time I saw it, it's just like whatever, and then now seeing it, it's like fun. Take it away.
It's weird because I had this weird while watching it today. I had a weird flashback with all that moment of like, is he a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan? Because we've got Chrome Dome, which feels like something from that, but then also there was a character, I don't know, the brain character in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the cartoon, and had this like little they had this little robot. It was like a mouse robot, but it looked like an AT-AT.
Whoa.
Oh.
And he would like sit on top and control it. And that when the top came off in BB-8's there, it felt like that moment.
Oh. Maybe
probably not. It's probably just some weird fever dream I had. But
I know we have some listeners that are TMNT fans, so you can let us know, and we'll let Mike know if
the Chrome Dome crew
agree with that.
Yeah.
Because I have zero experience with TMNT, like literally zero. I don't know anything about them.
I think as a kid I watched
missed
a little bit.
I just totally missed it.
Now.
Yeah. Not my thing either.
Well, there's people our age that love it. So
that's true. Like my brother-in-law's about your age and he loves it. So
yeah, I never saw the show. I never read the comics.
The comics.
I think
the movies. So
I think I liked the one that had nunchucks.
Michelangelo.
I think he was my guy.
Cool.
But that was like maybe one episode I watched or something.
So
well, there's
Finn
certainly more than 3 of those.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So Finn fights Shredder and Chrome Dome.
That was a funny fight too, because he wastes Phasma pretty quick. And I remember Phasma being a character like the ones we're discussing, where like the movies never presented her as anything more than interesting looking.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there was a lot of like talk before the movies and all this stuff and like concept art.
Yeah,
but
she's a well-known actor. I think Game of Thrones is going on at the same time, so they're expecting like, well, you would obviously use her.
Yeah,
and it's Finn's arch nemesis. So, but then we get a classic villain faux pas of like, a blaster's too good for you. We'll use these space axes.
Yeah,
which is like, where did these come from?
Yeah.
There's some of those moments what takes you out of like, this is just weird.
But I mean, in 30 or 40 years, she can star in her own series.
She's gonna have a great TV series. It's gonna be incredible. Yeah.
Because she fell, which we all know in Star Wars does not equal death.
She's definitely alive.
Yeah. So anyway, her and Sam Jackson can come back in a series someday, because they're the two that have fallen and don't come back to life.
I want a scene where they both are force sensitive, so they both stop and float to a window.
I want it to be a love story.
Yeah.
But then we're on the planet, right?
The Salt Planet.
Salt Planet. Great. Design 10 out of 10.
Uh-huh.
What are you talking about?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's awesome.
It's so good.
And we're having this big showdown. We see Gareth Edwards, the director of Rogue One, in the trenches.
Yeah.
I
brings
believe
to mind all the war movies.
Yeah, isn't Ryan Johnson in the big AT-AT Walker?
I think so, and he's got a couple of like just his friends are in this scene too. I mean,
it's
like
fun.
It's just like, who you want to be in? Yeah. It's like, I don't know.
They attempt to stop him, and then Rose stops Finn from stopping them.
And at that point too, Poe is like, we have to pull back. Like he makes that choice too.
Yeah, he's grown as a character.
He has. He's put on his big boy pants.
And Rose is like, we can't win like this. Like, we have to win by saving the ones we love.
I love that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And then she gives him a very
saving the things we love.
G-rated kiss.
Oh yeah.
That almost feels like we saved each other kiss, not like a I've had a crush on you the whole movie, passionate kiss. So I've never felt that it's like, okay, they're a thing now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Finn looks so confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah.
Are you dead? It's so awkward.
But then we see a shadowy figure that takes us back to Return of the Jedi in Jabba's palace. And we see Luke Skywalker walk in, pull back his hood, and he sits. What?
A new dye job.
Yes.
He's a brown beard and
and he hands the dice from the Millennium Falcon to Leia, and they have this heartfelt conversation. And the behind the scenes when they're done,
is everyone crying?
Carrie Fisher's just crying and Ryan Johnson's like trying to comfort her,
Aw.
which I think partially is, I noticed it a couple times where it's like that. I've never done this before, but it's like actors, when you have to cry, they do get into that emotion, and it's not like they're just like, okay, you cut, okay, great, cool.
Yeah.
It's like they are having this moment where they both know like this is the last time we're gonna act together too.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's playing into it.
Oh yeah. Oh, and then adding on to that the real life reality for the audience of like, oh, that was like one of the last times right there.
Yeah. So sweet.
And so, he's apologizing for not taking care of their son, and she's forgiving him, and they're having this great reconciliation. And then John Williams is like, folks, I've made not 7, but now we'll make it 8 iconic Star Wars scores, because the score then goes dun, 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 dun. And he starts stepping out. He winks at C-3PO.
Oh, that was so epic.
The best. And he's stepping out. And I'd never noticed this, but Jordan pointed it out. And you don't notice it the first time. He's not making any footprints in the salt.
Nope.
So
and the camera pans down to his...
I know, and I just...
Especially
I'm so
when him
caught
and
up in the
Kylo
moment.
fighting.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah.
And but when Kylo and him are fighting...
I didn't even take that as he's not there. When I said that last night, I meant... Because I forgot that he wasn't physically there.
Oh, okay.
But as they're fighting, what I meant was he is so light-footed using the Force.
Yeah.
But Kylo is so angry.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
He's a
too.
regular Legolas. I mean, he's just dancing on the salt.
It's very much so. But
That's the way I saw it too. I was just like, oh yeah. But
you saying that though, I'm like, oh yeah, it's because he wasn't there.
Yeah, he's not there. So he comes out, and then Kylo's like, launch everything you have at him, and they fire and fire and fire, and then Donald Gleason's like, do you think you hit him?
Yeah.
And he makes him stop.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there. And in the theaters, it was like, what is happening? I just had like no semblance for like, how is this a thing? I don't even understand.
Yeah.
Just kind of a good place to be in. And then he just wipes his shoulder.
Oh, it's a samurai movie. It's a Western. It's dusting off the... it's so epic.
So good. And then Kylo flies down, and they fight, and all Luke does is dodge. And he has that crazy Matrix dodge, which turns into like a side flip.
Yeah, it's a wild move. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, this is cool. This is why we go to the movie theaters. I love it.
It's why we like space wizards, right?
Yeah.
That's why we like
cool
space wizards.
Yeah.
And then he... At what point does he like strike him?
Well, I think he just stands still and waits for it. Like Kylo just comes at him.
Yeah, he turns off his lightsaber, and then they have
That's right. Yeah.
Of like, I'm sorry, trying to reach him one last time, but then he says, what does he say? He says, I'm going to end you, all that kind of stuff. Everything you just said was a lie.
Oh
yes,
yeah, like
right.
repeats
it on the opposite. And and that's
so
after
good.
he strikes him.
And
I
then,
will not be the last Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah.
As you're like, yes. Which kind of calls back.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it kind of calls back George's poetic thing that he likes to do of like flipping things and having a match up in the movie, but he wasn't involved, so it doesn't matter.
Right. But Poe realizes, this is a diversion, and then they make their escape. They're attempting to. They're following the crystal foxes.
The crystal critters.
Crystal critters, yes. And then
it's so weird.
like Kylo figures out that he's not really there, and he dissipates.
Yeah. He puts the sword through him.
Yeah. Rey pulls all the boulders and makes the thing, because earlier she had said it's just moving rocks. And then she's like, moving rocks. Yeah. Moves them. Love that.
This was the moment today, like an hour before, and I'm like, crap, I like this movie. Because like moving rocks, it's like, oh, call back to the training, like more than moving rocks, not just moving rocks. I mean, I was like, oh crap, he suckered me in.
I think at the least, it must be acknowledged that this is a movie that grows on you at the very least. I mean, that has certainly been the three of our experiences with this movie.
Yeah. From like, I don't know what to think, to I hate it, to best movie ever, and then back. Yeah. No.
And then they escape, but then we cut to Luke as he's back on the island and he got into his astral form like Doctor
Projectile
Strange.
Vomited his astral form through the universe.
And then his theme plays one last time as we see twin sun setting, like the first time we met this character.
Yes.
Oh, so good. Talk about poetry, George.
And I blame it on, I didn't get much sleep last night. I blame it there. And as a dad now, I get more sentimental. And as an older dad, it's like, oh, wow. Sentimental music and callbacks to your childhood. I'm in, like kind of a thing. But the
you
twin
can admit
sons
that you just like it.
Well, that's it was a perfect, like the music is perfect.
It really is.
And what he's seeing, and Hamill has tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, and it almost feels like I think it's Hamill knowing. It almost feels like he's like, okay, I prepared for this moment.
Yes.
I was taught by Yoda. I was taught by Obi-Wan how to do this, and it's like now it's time to let go. And so it's like
but he does kind of seem like he isn't like he's just going through a lot. Like I wouldn't say scared, just like
no. It's like it's my time, and
yeah.
Obi-Wan did this, Yoda did this.
Yeah,
now it's my turn.
It's great.
Yeah. Crap.
And then we've turned him.
There was good in him all along. I need to save you. You already saved me. That's the moment.
And then the movie ends.
Yeah,
kind of.
well, and then it does show the kid, which we already kind of talked about.
Well, and you get that moment too between Rey and Kylo. And Kylo's realizing everybody's gone. He picks up the dice and they disappear. That was beautiful.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They like disappear. So you're like, oh, that was even a projection, but it was held on. Even there's the science part. But
oh yeah.
But then that last moment between him and Rey, the realization, oh, you're getting away and you're not gonna go with me. That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think of it now, Mike? Where does it land on your pantheon of Star Wars? Maybe that's a better question.
I mean, it's tough because I think I was telling you, I've come to the realization that I love the Star Wars universe. I don't necessarily like the content.
What does that mean, though?
Well,
I told you to explain here.
Yeah, there's always something in the movie or the TV series that really bugs me. Like I wouldn't, and I think what happens is, in high school, I had a group of buddies. We had a Star Wars RPG game that we played. So role playing like D&D, but Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And so my childhood has all this built up story and how I think the universe works. And so you start taking ownership of like, well, Luke would do this and da. And so then when you get a chance for, they're going to bring back this character, you've built up everything.
Yeah.
So there's nothing they can do to make you happy.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be a good movie if they did exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
It wouldn't be entertaining. But so I think it's like, I realize there's portions of every movie, the original trilogy, even watching it a while back going like, this is kind of corny and like, it's very simple and it's definitely made for kids. Yeah. So as you get older, you kind of like with episodes 1, 2, and 3, you kind of like, ugh.
I realized
you're like,
whoops.
This is very saccharine. It's shallow. It's visual storytelling, which is what George does best. But it's not deep, and you need something deeper as you get older. But some even the TV series, there's always something that because of how much I nerded out on, I'm not going to be happy with. So it takes like, I'm just going to watch this from an enjoyment aspect. And then you're like, that was really great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you try to pick it apart or input what you would do with the story, you just get upset.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of Star Wars fans have the issue, because we spend so much time creating theories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the biggest YouTubers on YouTube is Star Wars Theory. And all he does is theorize about what's going to happen in Star Wars stuff. And never pleased, There's always something. So.
That's interesting.
Well, and
casual fans, I think, enjoy it more. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose that is the the ultimate fan problem for both the fan and the creators of any series,
Right.
Yeah.
Because not even George could do it,
Right.
Right.
And it is so funny now that there's an outcry of bring George back.
Oh,
and
right.
it's
Now
like,
it's always like,
guys,
well, George could do it. It's like, no, you hated him.
He couldn't. He didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And leave him alone.
Yeah.
Let him live his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just interesting, like talking to people who are maybe like 8-9 years younger than me, how much they loved the prequels.
Yeah.
Even if as they get older, they're like, I don't really like them anymore. That's just, I was more high school age, so it was different. So everybody's got their own Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, but I still think Kylo Ren's like the best character ever. Rey's up there too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do your kids, are they like the new Star Wars is the best Star Wars for them?
They put up with Star Wars.
Okay.
I think it's the classic dad thinks it's cool, so I don't. Yeah. My younger kids, they'll be with me, but it's like, we got to watch Obi-Wan. We want to watch The Flash. It's like, oh man. So
dang it, that sucks for us who don't have
that means
kids.
our kids are gonna hate movies.
Yeah, maybe like have their friends who like it introduce them to it, and they'll think it's cool at that point. But if you think it's cool,
we're like giving all of our friends like DVDs of The Godfather and stuff like that. We're like,
introduce this to my kid. I'll give you $10.
The kid's like, I'm 10. I can't watch The Godfather. What are you talking about?
No, but I mean, I did get to experience all my kids discover Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Awesome.
And they all had that moment where they were like, what?
Like, oh, that's cool.
Awesome.
That was really cool. But like after like the original trilogy, they're just like, it's Star Wars, they're more into Avatar cartoons and, like they have their own Star Wars stuff now. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Did you show them theatrical?
Yes. Yeah.
A man after my own heart.
You think he's going to not do that?
I've heard of people who've done episode 1 first to their kids. And I
but
just
don't you think that those people aren't like crazy fans?
Yeah.
Who would do that?
I'd be ashamed if I was.
It's just so easy these days.
Yeah.
We know not to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like DVD days and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Or VHS, but yeah, no, theatrical going through. Yeah.
Good.
They don't get to find out Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader. Like they have to do it the way I did it.
Yeah.
And it was always a cool point. I've heard of friends who had it like completely ruined it for them, like as they're watching. Oh yeah, that's Luke's father.
Well, I mean, that was my experience. I don't know if you remember in the first episode of our series.
Yeah, that's
here.
right. Yeah. I had a friend who was just like, he had that same experience. Just like, oh yeah, they're brother and sister, and
like all of
that's their dad, and like everything was ruined. I just can't imagine a world like that. That's what's wrong with the world.
Yeah.
Too many people know who Darth Vader is before they see it. But
well, before we leave, I'm going to say my big sweeping statement about The Last Jedi.
Okay.
I went to the dark side with it, and I'm now fully on the light side, and I believe easily this is the best movie since The Empire Strikes Back in Star Wars.
Wow.
even over Rogue One?
Yeah. I think it's a no contest in my own personal preference. It shifted around quite a bit, and it used to be a lot lower, but now it's number 3 for me.
Wow.
It's The Last Jedi, then second favorite is the original.
The Ewok special. Oh no. Okay, the original.
And then number 1, holiday special.
Holiday special is the best thing. Gave us Boba Fett.
Yeah.
No, it's just like with these movies, like just episode 1. I wouldn't give up Darth Maul. It's epic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
it is the best duel in the series. I still contend. Episode 1.
Episode 3 is so great though.
Well, movie making wise, I think episode 1 is.
Yeah. But there's parts of every movie that are.
Yeah.
They're
except
great.
Attack of the Clones.
Except Attack of the Clones. That's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
What a weird series that we've allowed to keep being made.
I think I'm starting to forget the titles again.
Well, we better wrap this up. Any last thoughts for you, Jordan?
I think this is much higher on my list than I ever thought it would be, too.
And folks, you'll know in 2 weeks our ultimate Star Wars ranking. So Unless there's some movies coming out in theaters that are going to break these up. I don't remember.
Yep.
All right. Mike, anything to plug?
Nothing to plug. May the Force be with you all. Yeah. Star Wars is fun.
It is.
Space Wizards are great. Don't take it too seriously.
Yes, please don't.
Yes. And Kelly Marie Tran rocks.
Yeah.
You're welcome on the pod anytime.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
That would be cool.
She seems great.
Yeah. All right, folks. Thank you for listening. And next week it is Solo. Saying it like the guy in the movie.
Yep.
You can use this on the pod, but somehow I feel like a stormtrooper who just walks away and realizes, wait a minute, why am I letting these guys go? Somehow Micah did a Jedi mind trick on me, and I ended up liking The Last Jedi by the end of the pod. Fully going in thinking I was going to tear it apart. Oh well. That's what makes the Macabre podcast universe so great. May the Force be with you all.